makes days like this possible. Lord, I ask that you help keep everyone safe today, not only the drivers, but all spectators and crew as we deal with a little bit of heat today. And Lord, help remind us that everything we do is for you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Landon. If you would please remain standing for our national anthem, Eric Whitnable.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Beautiful job, Eric, once again. Thank you so much. We're just a couple minutes away from the command to fire up the motors here, so drivers to your cars, if you would, please. Five-minute board is up. 5-minute board is in the air for our teams. 5 minutes, please. Pastor Tim, I think they've gotten the jump on us, but just to make it official, let's ask you to give us those famous words in motorsports, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Thank you. Chaplain Tim from the American Racing Mission, giving the official word to fire up the motors here. I'm going to make my way up to the commentary position, and we'll have the start of this race in just a couple minutes' time. thanks again to all of you who joined us on the fan walk. We apologize for the delayed start, but we got it done. So here we go. Race for Group 2 coming up next. Welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as we're about ready to kick off the finale of the weekend for Group 2. These are non-Wings and Slicks Formula cars. It'll be a two-wave start as we'll have the Formula Bs out in front. We've got 9 of them on the grid. And then the balance of the field are Formula Fords, basically. We've got a couple post-club Fords, a Formula Ford, and a whole bunch of Club Fords. So we're getting ready to roll as the cars are rolling away from their grid positions. Good afternoon. My name's John Phippen, spokesman for the SVRA this weekend, as well as the Formula Regional Americas Championship. So glad to have you with us as these drivers rolling away for this Group 2 finale of the weekend. Let's introduce the 31 starters for you. In the second wave will be the Formula Fords. Starting alone in row 16 is car 55, Rick Hill in his Crosley 32F. In row 15, the 189 of Rod Bolhouse in his Lola T642. Car 414 is Chris Arrogante in a Crosley 35F. In row 14, car 50 is Steve Beeler in a Lola T540. Car 5 is Charles Smith in a Taiga FF81. In row 13, car 29A, Randy Domick in a Swift DB1. And the 61 of Hector McDonald in a Taiga FFA80. In row 12, car number 66 is a Merlin Mark 11A driven by James Buchanan. Alongside him is car number 7, Sherman Johnson, in another Crosley 32F. Row 11 has the 8A of Wes Allen in his Eagle, and the number 27 of Doug Bruce in a Merlin Mark 20A. In row 10, car 54 is Rick Baribeau in a PRS RH01. Next to him is the 27A of Michael Nalen in a Citation Zinc 10B. In row number 9, we've got the number 4 of Mackenzie Wolf in a Crossley 32F. In row 8, the 34 of Dan Rhodes in a Taiga Formula Ford. Alongside him is the 127 of Daniel Ahrens II in a Crossley 32F. In row 7, car 36 is Jeffrey Tillage in a Lola 440. And next to him is the 291 of Kim Madrid. We chatted with her briefly on the grid in her Crossley Formula Ford. In row 6, car number 27B is Mark Kingham in his Zinc 10C. And the 16 of Todd Strong in a Titan Mark 6. And our pole sitter is car number 29, Patrick Flynn. We talked to Patrick briefly in the pre-race in his 1990 Van Diemen RF90. Now the first wave, the top 9 cars, all from the Formula B ranks. Jeff Brabham, son of Jack Brabham, the builder of these most of these cars, in the number 2A. It's a new car for him this weekend, as he had problems with his primary car yesterday, overheating a little bit. So Ron Hornig found him another car, and Jeff is going to start at the back of this field. I don't think he'll stay there long. Let's go up to row 4 on the outside. The 68 of Pierce Rader in one of the 2 cars that are not Brabham's. His is a 1971 Lotus 69B. Moving forward, next to him is the 82 of John Bush in his 67 Brabham BT21. We spoke with Travis Ingen. He will start outside of row 3 in car number 1. That's a Chevron B17B, 1970s vintage. Mark Giroux, we talked to him briefly in the number 57. He's in a Brabham BT29. All Brabhams in the front 2 rows. On the outside is the 32 of Ron Hornig in a 71 Brabham BT35-32. Next to him is the 44 of Joel Quadracci in a Brabham BT29. And a pair of BT29s on the front row. We talked to both of these drivers. The number 2 is Dave Handy, and Tonis Kasmitz on the pole in that black number 666. As the first wave coming onto the front straightaway. And there's the green flag, and we are away. Dave Handy gets a good jump. Tonis Kasmitz with the blue of Ron Hornig right behind him as they make the run down toward turn number 1. The yellow of Mark Giroux ducks to the inside, trying to make it 3 wide as they head down into turn 1, but it looks like Tonis Kasmitz is going to have the advantage. Meanwhile, the Formula Ford wave has taken the green flag as well. Patrick Flynn and Todd Strong leading that one. Flynn is on the inside of turn 1, Strong on the outside. As they work their way through turn 1, still side by side. Looks like Strong is going to slot into that top spot, but Patrick Flynn's going to do his best to keep him there. Kim Madrid right behind in that pink number 291. Back at the front, good battle as our leaders working their way down into turn number 7. And guess what? Jeff Brabham is to the front, started 9th, and he's already to the front before we get halfway through the first lap. We wondered how long it was going to take him to get to the front, and he has wasted no time whatsoever. Dave Handy in second. Tonis Kasmitz, the pole sitter, back in 3rd right now. Don't expect him to stay there too long. Jeff Brabham, son of Jack Brabham, father of Matthew Brabham. It's great to talk to Jeff down on the grid, reminiscing a little bit about his father and the building of these race cars. As there's Kim Madrid, as she's leading a parade just behind her as well, as the Lola looks to have slotted right in behind Kim. I believe that is Jeffrey Tillage, but we'll sort it as they come by. But Jeffrey Brabham, boom, across the line to take the top spot. Dave Handy and Tonis Kasmitz. Then Ron Hornig in the number 32. Mark Giroux in the 59. As Travis Ingen gets around Giroux up into 6th spot. So Mark Giroux back in 7th. Pretty good battle a little deeper in the pack as Tonis Kasmitz has taken over 2nd spot. Meanwhile, the Formula Fords come by. Once again, Patrick Flynn down to the inside with Strong right alongside him. Todd Strong in that number 16. Patrick Flynn in the 29A Post Club Ford. Jeff Brabham and Tonis Kasmitz now rejoining their battle at the front. Not at all surprising. These two former professional drivers have plenty of fire left. Jeff said he hadn't driven for many, many years, but he had a chance to drive one of these cars. Ron Hornig got him to drive one of these cars in an exhibition race, and the fire was relit as Jeff Brabham, a man in his 70s, certainly doing what he was born to do, which is drive a race car fast. And how cool is it that he's driving one that his dad built? As they work their way through the final turn, Gasmet's looking racy here, as he's not one to finish second if he can avoid it. Tonis Gasmet's and Jeff Brabham nose to tail. Jeff's getting refamiliarized with this car. First time he's ever driven this particular car. Even though they're all theoretically identical, obviously this is going to be a new experience for him, as Gasmet's able to get a little more speed down the straightaway, and he takes over the top spot. Tonis Gasmet's, as he said, that car came to him as a basket case, basically, and he and his crew were able to rebuild it into its current splendor, and he's really enjoying it. Great racing side by side with Kim Madrid. She's there with the red and white number 36, of Jeffrey Tillage. Meanwhile, down into turn 7, here comes Jeff Brabham down to the inside to turn 7, as he's going to try to retake that top spot, and he does it. As he and Tonis Gasmet's historically have great battles in this class of racing, as they swap the lead multiple times throughout the course of the day. I'd say Jeff had a different car here yesterday and had to retire after just a handful of laps as the car was overheating, and he didn't want to run the risk of damaging it in any way. So fortunately, Ron Hornig had another one for him, this yellow number 2A, and he's putting it to good use. Jeff, of course, known mostly for his IMSA racing prowess, as he won multiple IMSA championships over the course of his career. He did some open wheel racing as well, but really enjoys driving this car, and I can imagine why. They are beautifully turned out little race cars, and a lot of fun to drive. This is the era when it was all about mechanical grip. These cars have no wings, no ground effects. It's all about getting the car to handle and corner as well as possible and have the least amount of drag, as Todd Strong has taken over the lead of the Formula Ford wave in that number 16. That 16 is a Titan Mark 6. Patrick Flynn in the Van Diemen RF90. Pat was telling us that the car that he actually drove as a youngster in his native Australia is in the process of being rebuilt, but they found this one, and they are racing it until the other one is ready. But he loves the Van Diemens. That's where he cut his teeth as a young racer back in his native Australia. Tonis Gasmet's has taken over the lead now in the Formula B wave. Jeff Brabham now in second spot as they continue their duel at the front. Dave Handy is in third, about a second and a half back of this battle. At least he was at the end of the last lap. We'll see if that gap has grown a little bit bigger. Tonis Gasmet's has driven just about anything with open wheels. I can recall when he was still an amateur racer, racing and winning the Formula Atlantic Championship at the runoffs at my home track of Mid-Ohio. And he was quite emotional on the podium after notching that victory. And like Jeff Brabham said, he really enjoys having the opportunity to race this car. They've caught up with some traffic now as Jeff Brabham gets the lead back again, as they are putting the number 5 of Charles Smith a lap down. Steve Beeler in the number 50 also there going a lap down, but these two wasting no time as they make it through the chicane and onto the Hallman Straight. Brabham set his personal best at 132.5 on the last lap, able to retake the lead. I think there's a little fun between these two as they are just swapping the lead back and forth. I won't say they're stepping aside and letting the other through, but I think they enjoy the competition just as much as they enjoy driving these beautiful race cars. Oh, and we have a spinner. Looks like the number 4 has gone around. That's Mackenzie Wolf in the Crosley 32F. The Crosley, a very popular Formula Ford, and in its day was the one to have. In fact, Nigel Mansell started in a Crosley. and eventually ended up, of course, in the Formula One World Championship. At the head of the Formula Ford wave, it is still Patrick Flynn and Todd Strong. Flynn with the advantage. Strong giving chase. Jeff Brabham hanging on to the lead as they come across to complete race lap number 5. 7 laps or 14 minutes to go, whichever comes first. So far, touch wood, everything's been good. We've had a couple spins, but nothing to bring out the dreaded safety car. Todd Strong looking strong here. In fact, he is giving Patrick Flynn just about everything he can handle. Mark Kingham is a distant third in that number 27B. Zinc, the blue and white Zinc 10C. Travis Engen flashing by our vantage point here in the number 1 Chevron B17, but we stay with this Formula Ford battle. Meanwhile, back at the front of the Formula B wave, Jonas Gasmans has taken the lead once again as these two have swapped it multiple times in this young 5-lap race so far. Of course, they have to deal with traffic at this point. They've caught the back of the Formula Fs, and so now they've got to weave their way through traffic and maintain their race as well. Jonas catching that lapper just the wrong time, so it cost him just a little bit of momentum. We'll see if Jeff can take advantage of that and draft up a little bit closer as they cross the line about a half a second apart right now. But Brabham's car good in a straight line. Look at that. He sucks right up to the back using the slipstream to get a little closer. Not quite close enough to pull the trigger, so he realizes there's plenty of opportunities to make passes on this wide racetrack. Meanwhile, Patrick Flynn beginning to stretch his legs just a little bit. The battle is on for second, however, as Mark Kingham is only about 9/10 of a second behind Todd Strong. And a little deeper, we have the 55 car of Rick Hill right behind Mark Kingham. And he has got Kim Madrid and Jeffrey Tillich right behind him. Daniel Aarons not that far back as well, so that's a great 4-way battle. There's Patrick Flynn, Todd Strong, and Mark Kingham in the 227B, the white car. Oh, Kim Madrid is off in the 291. A little too much speed. She's having a little trouble getting some traction on the grass. That is always a problem. So she'll have to be a little more patient with the throttle application here. Kingham off to the inside, trying to get a little fresh air on that car, perhaps. Cool the radiators down just a bit. Patrick in 8th position overall. Todd Strong in 9th. Mark Kingham in 10th, but they lead the Formula Ford wave. Strong getting a little wide there through turn number 4. There's Travis Engen in that number 1 Chevron with the characteristic orange nose. Travis, as he confessed on the grid, a few days short of his 80th birthday, yet still out here racing strong. Great to see him, as he's been a long-time competitor in vintage racing, driving everything from Audi R8s to this beautiful little Chevron. He's got a great collection of race cars, and he enjoys coming out here and running them. Traffic continues for our leaders. Jeff Brabham back into the lead with Jonas Gasmans giving chase as they work their way through traffic. Those cars just look like they would be a ball to drive. And I think the big smile on the faces of all the drivers I interviewed indicates that that's exactly the case. These little Formula Bs were just sweet. Brabham getting a little bit of a drift there as he comes through turn 13 and up onto the main straightaway, and I think Jonas got a little better run, so look for him to pop out here. There he goes, just past start finish. So Jonas going to try to take advantage. Not quite close enough to make the move. Maybe if it was the last lap, he might do so, but he also saw that lapped car just in a bad spot. Didn't want to force the issue for sure. SVRA Racing is all about racing close but fair, as these drivers try to give each other racing room. Contact is not something that we enjoy in vintage racing for sure. I believe we have a new second place car in Formula F, but let me sort that when they get back. Jonas Kasmets has retaken the lead, most likely at turn 7 as he comes through turn 10 and sweeps up onto the banking at turn 11. Four laps or 8 minutes remaining in this one, so here's the 27A, and that is Michael Nalen in his Citation Zinc. And he has pulled off. Meanwhile, the battle at the front of the... Nope, I'm sorry. I thought that was Todd Strong. It is not. I was going to say that's the battle at the front of the Formula Ford field. Side by side once again. Let's see if Jeff Brabham can pull the trigger. Nope, he's going to fall in single file as he's got the 27B of Mark Kingham, who is running third in the Formula Fords. And he, in a very gentlemanly way, lets that car through. Obviously, the Formula Bs have significantly more performance potential. They lap in the 130s, and the best of the Formula Fords are about 10 seconds a lap slower. Kasmets. Then Jeff Brabham. Dave Handy's about 30 seconds up the road of this battle at the front. Patrick Flynn still leading the Formula Fs as we have a retirement here. The number 4 car of Mackenzie Wolf, who had a problem earlier, has finally made it into the pit lane. There's our second place runner in the Formula Fs, Todd Strong, in the 16 car. As they continue to work their way up through traffic. Todd behind Patrick by about 4 seconds right now. White flag is in the air as we are one lap away from the end of this one. Jonas Kasmets working his way through traffic. There's Giroux in that number 59, currently running in 6th spot. There's Kasmets. There's Brabham. Maybe a last gasp effort here for Jeff to try to take the lead back again. Jonas able to keep him at bay. Let's see if Jeff can get a good run through this slalom. Heading down toward turn 10 now. And then it's foot to the floor from here all the way to turn 12. As this sweeping right-hander should be easy flat for these cars. Brabham's gaining. He's gaining. Is he close enough? I don't think so. Ooh, but he's right there. He gets a little better mid-corner speed. He's thinking about it. He's going to stuff it down to the inside as Jonas going to give him room right to the outside. Jeff Brabham forces Jonas Kasmets off into the grass, and he's going to take the win. So Jeff Brabham, from 9th on the grid, had the lead by the end of the first lap, and he's going to take the win. Jonas Kasmets coasting across the line. Meanwhile, this battle starting with the 55 car of Rick Hill. That's Jeffrey Tillage just behind him, and then Todd Strong behind him. So Todd Strong with an issue. Strong now going to try to get it done as they come to the line, but can't quite do it. So Patrick Flynn will take the win. Mark Kingham will finish in second in the Formula Ford ranks. Rick Hill comes home in third. Todd Strong, obviously with a problem, dropped back to 11th overall, fourth in class. Jeffrey Tillage and Daniel Aarons just behind him. We'll acknowledge the class winners in each of the classes. In the Formula B class, Jeff Brabham and Dave Handy were both in the Formula B G category. The G means it's a Gold Star car, which means it is in original equipment specification, basically as the car raced when it was new. And Tonis Kazmat's in the Formula B class with a little more relaxation of the rules, as they can make some substitutions if they need to. Kazmat's will take the win in that class over Pierce Rader in the Lotus and Ron Hornig in the number 32 Brabham. In the Post Club Ford, Patrick Flynn, your winner, in the number 29 Van Diemen, and Randy Domick will take second place honors in the 29A Swift. In the Formula Ford category, Todd Strong, your winner, in the 16 over Doug Bruce in the 27 Merlin. And then the Club Ford, the biggest class by far, the 27B of Mark Kingham takes the win in his Zinc, followed by the 55 of Rick Hill in the Crosley and the 36 of Jeffrey Tillage in the Lola T440. Jeff Brabham saluting the crowd and the corner workers as he makes his way into the pit lane. They'll head down to Victory Circle to enjoy the podium celebrations. Eric Whitnaple, who did such a fantastic job singing our national anthem, also is the host of our podium ceremonies for all of our SVRA classes. I have the honor of doing the podiums for the Formula Regional Americas classes, and we've got one more race for them coming up in just about an hour. A little less, perhaps. Next up, always a crowd favorite, is the stock cars will be next out. These are all ex-NASCAR machinery, and we've got a pretty good gaggle of them here this weekend. And they always put on a good show. Jeff Brabham climbing out of his car. Mark Kingham in the 27B. There's Patrick Flynn in the 29. Right behind them is the 55 car of Rick Hall. Before we get our stock car race underway, we've had an opportunity to chat with Joe Nemechek. Front Row Joe is here this weekend, and we'll see if he's going to be in his car. He turned his car over to one of his teammates for the race yesterday, but we'll see how that happens today. But here's Joe Nemechek talking about this class and what fun he has racing in it.
Well, we come here with customers, and we came here to have a lot of fun. That's the main thing, having fun. We've got some cool old vintage NASCAR race cars, and we're here to have fun. Everybody goes at their own pace. I mean, it's competitive, but there's like 6 different levels of guys racing out here. So everybody has somebody to race. The thing with me, I'm in charge of my Nemechek Motorsports and Engineering, so I have guys here that are racing and help working on everybody's cars. So number one objective of mine is to keep everybody's cars running. If it means I don't go out, we're going to keep everybody's cars running. So my customers come first, and then we get to go have fun. I never thought I would be back here taking care of customer cars. You know, I love racing. I know these race cars, and I've made a living driving these race cars my whole life. So I think that's one of the advantages that our team and our group has, is I had to do this for a living. Okay, this is how I made money. So you learn what breaks what doesn't break, the things that are important, the things you got to take care of to have a successful weekend. And I've incorporated all that into the cars we run, and normally we don't have any failures at the racetrack, and they get the run. And that's one of the reasons I got involved. The first couple races I went to help people, everybody's cars are broke down all the time, and it's like, how can you guys keep doing this? So that's why I got involved, and now I got a big business doing it.
Great to hear from Joe Nemechek and talk about the journey that brought him here. Again, he showed up to drive in an exhibition race and fell in love with it. Obviously making his living as a professional race car driver, and then he formed his company to maintain and keep these cars together. And he's got a lot of clients here that he's working with to keep the cars running. Like he said, there were a number of days when these stock cars would kind of fall by the wayside as the weekend went on with various technical maladies, but Joe and his crew doing a great job of keeping these cars on the track. As you get a good pan view of the podium waiting area for the race just finished. As we've got 22 NASCAR stockers about to take to the track for this next race. And the 5-minute warning has been given to the field, so they'll be rolling out of here before too much longer. Looking at the schedule for the rest of the day, next up after this race will be the Formula Regional Americas finale for the weekend. And then we'll have the Ragtime Racers. If you weren't here yesterday, these are 1920 and earlier race cars, many of which raced right here at the Brickyard in their era. And they'll do a lap around the track. Group 9 will be following that. That's really what cars of that ilk have come to now. Wings and slicks, formula cars, everything from Indy cars to Formula 1 cars represented in Group 9. We've got a couple Champ cars here this weekend, some Indy Lights cars. It's really a fun group to watch, and that's coming up at 3:50. And then our final sprint race of the weekend will be for Groups 5, 7, and 11. Those are the prototypes. Let's go to one more interview while we're waiting on the countdown to get to the top of the hour. We had a chance to interview some of the drivers and what it's like to drive at this legendary racetrack.
Yeah, coming to this track is surreal. I mean, to drag a trailer through that tunnel and not get kicked out for doing it is really something amazing. To be able to come here and be an average guy and hop in a car like this and go and drive is really neat. It's really fun.
Oh, it's definitely a lot of fun. It's challenging. You know, everything's flat, and you're trying to go as fast as you can within the grip level you have. So there's risk.
It's just a fantastic facility. The track is really fun to drive. I got to tell you, I didn't think it would be because it's just completely flat. But the way it was designed, it's really exciting to be out there, and just the history and to be at this venue is something else. I mean, this is a really amazing experience.
It's very nice. It's a very interesting feeling, especially going over the bricks. It's just like, it's so different. Like, I never expected to be driving on this track. So driving here, like I drove at Laguna and that was already an experience. But driving here is crazy because it's so iconic. It's been around for so long, and it's probably the most known track, like one of the most known tracks around the world, right? So it's pretty cool. And the track is really nice, actually. I've never driven on the road course, so it's a very cool experience.
My second time here, my first time driving, I came to the museum a few years ago while I was karting up in Newcastle. So it's super cool to come back here and actually get to drive on the track. This place is crazy, it's massive, but yeah, it's a really cool experience to race here.
The history is very cool. I mean, I've watched the Indy 500 since I was a kid, and I've watched it here as well live. It's a very cool event, and it's such a historic track, and you really feel it when you're on track, the bricks and all of that, so it's very cool and very special.
Yeah, I mean, the last Indy 500 we were at a few weeks ago, and there was a nice experience, and now driving here is also very, very cool.
The history here as far as IndyCar, F1, and even NASCAR is just, I mean, it's over 100 years, so it's pretty awesome to be here. I mean, the bricks, everything, just, I can't imagine this place during the Indy 500 with all the spectators. It's a really cool experience to just be a part of it, for sure.
Well, Indy has I guess, a life of its own. Everybody wants to come to Indy, but even more importantly, to have the opportunity to drive on the track is a real thrill. We've got about 9 guys who came out all the way from California for this event with their cars, just so that they could get a chance to drive on the Indy Oval.
Great to hear the input from those drivers, what it's like to race here at this facility. So many of them making their first visit here. As we get right into our next race, and these are for the stock cars. We've got 22 on the grid. Let's introduce them to you. In row 11 on the outside is the man we saw in the interview, the number 47 of Joe Nemechek. We'll see if Joe's in the car. I believe so. And next to him will be the number 2 of Scott Holley in the 2000 Penske Dodge with the Miller Lite livery. In row number 10, on the outside, car 78 is Carter Bowles in a Chevy Monte Carlo. And the number 60 of Brian Shafrenick in a Roush Fenway Mustang. In row 9, car number 6, Steve Beck in a Ford Thunderbird. And the 11A of Rick Frazier in a 2002 Ford Taurus. We'll hear from Rick and his son Scott a little later. In row 8, car number 14 is Randy Knuckles in a Chevy Monte Carlo SS. And the 90 of Brent Bernath in a Ford Fusion NASCAR. In row 7, car 40 is Dan Malloy in a Chevy Monte Carlo. And the number 4 of Scott Dolphy in a Chevy Silverado. Yes, we do have a racing truck here as well. Scott Frazier, son of Rick Frazier, in the number 9 car, starts outside of row 6 in his Dodge Charger. Next to the 15 of Carlos Gunn in a 1987 Ford Thunderbird. Row 5, the 29 of Larry Hoopaw in a Chevy Impala, and the 62 of Greg Richardson in a Chevy Camaro. In row 4, car 15A is Rodney Reston in the Chevy Camaro LZ1, and the number 20 of Claire Schwindeman in a 2006 Monte Carlo. Row 3 has the 41 of Brian Norman in a Dodge Charger, and the 43 of Christopher Evans driving a Chevy Camaro ZL1. On the front 2 rows, Justin DeFore on the outside of row 2 in the number 16 Ford, followed by the 48 of Joseph Burke in his 2006 Monte Carlo SS. And on the front row, car number 29A, Samuel LeCompte in his Chevrolet Monte Carlo, and the pole sitter, car number 6A, that's Ryan Gemmel in his 2009 Toyota Camry. As the field beginning to pack up and stack up, coming off of the 13th turn, as they make their way onto the front row. Gemmel in the yellow and black Camry. Samuel LeCompte alongside in the 29A with the Jimmy John's livery, I believe. Here they come. And they're away. Sorry, it's the 16 next to Ryan Gemmel on the front row. So LeCompte apparently did not make it. As we work our way down to turn number 1 for the first time. It's going to be Gemmel hanging on to that top spot. Justin DeFore is in that number 16 car that's slotted in just ahead at the stripe. Here's the 62 of Greg Richardson in his Camaro with the South Point livery, just behind the 29 Goodwrench car of Samuel LeCompte. 3 wide as they come down toward turn number 7. But Ryan Gemmel, who's been quick all weekend, looking good. I think it's the Target car that's moved up into second spot. Brian Norman in the 41. Gemmel in the Camry, starting to get away. As they power through the turn up onto the banking. Oh, side-by-side racing action there as the 16 and the 41 thinking about it. Brian Norman and Justin DeFore. Norman right out to the edge of the track. That's going to compromise his exit speed just a bit. DeFore is going to try to take advantage of it as he tucks into the draft. Tries to get the run. But Gemmel all by himself out in front after just 1 lap. He's already built up a 3-second lead. Claire Schwindeman just behind in the number 20 car with the Home Depot livery. And And then right behind him is Rodney Reston, the 15A with the Skip Barber livery. And oh, the 41 goes too deep. Brian Norman a little late on the brakes. And that opens the door for the 16 of Justin DeFore to move up into second spot. Then the 20 and the 15 just behind him. As we mentioned, the 20, Claire Schwindeman. The 15 of Carlos Gunn. Motocraft livery on Carlos's car. But nobody has anything for Ryan Gemmel at the moment. Joe Nemechek has made it up to the 10th position in the number 47. So he is indeed charging his way through the field. We'll see if he can get all the way to the front. Meanwhile, this good battle between Brian Norman, right behind him, Claire Schwindeman, right behind Claire, the 15 of Carlos Gann. Deep into that turn is Carlos Gann, trying to make the move on Schwindeman, but has to back out of it. Meanwhile, Ryan Gemmel sets a new fast lap of the race at a 31.5. Justin DeFore up to second, then the 41 of Brian Norman, then Schwindeman and the 15 of Rodney Reston. And guess who's behind Reston? Joe Nemechek up to sixth. And he just set the fast lap of the race. And there he is in the number 47, Joe Nemechek, front row Joe as he's called. And he's wasted no time getting this car to the front after starting at the back of the field. Oh, and he dives inside Schwindeman, picks up another spot. That moves him up to fourth, I believe. When you start at the back, it gets a little harder the higher up in the order you get. The cars are more and more on the pace as you get closer to the front. There's the 41 of Brian Norman with front row Joe, not that far behind. There he is. Just as he makes that move, we understand we might have a car off. The race control, yep, we got two of them. And one is Rick Frazier in the 11A with the Hooters livery. I didn't get the number on the other car. As Joe made the pass on Brian Norman. Don't know whether that happened after the yellow flags were displayed. Yeah, there we go. It's the CTI Financial car of Brent Bernath, the other car involved in that incident. And it looks like there was some body damage on the right rear, and it might be damaged enough that he can't continue. There's a shot of the number 6 of Steve Beck in his Valvoline Thunderbird. Race control getting reports from the corner stations. There might be some debris on the track at turn 6. So while we're stopped to collect these two cars, they'll have a course vehicle out there to check for that if that's the case. We have 9 laps to go, or 16 minutes. And I'm guessing we'll probably hit the time before we hit the lap count, just because these laps behind the safety car take a little longer. Joe Nemechek, fastest lap of the race at a 1:30.6. Ryan Gemmel, his teammate in the 6A, the next fastest car, but almost 8/10 slower at a 31.5. Camden Murphy in the 29A. Camden taking over that car from Larry Hoopaw. Actually, no, Larry's in there. Let's see. Samuel Lecomte, that's the car that he's taken over from Camden, because Lecomte is not in the field. We saw him earlier yesterday in his Camaro in the Group 6 class as the safety car hustling to catch up to our leader. Safety car, there we go, getting in front of the leader. There we go. Now everybody's in the right lineup. She's going to bring the field down onto the pit lane at turn 1 so as to not interfere with the safety crew doing their job there at turn 1. They'll probably have a tilt bed. Yep, they've got to get a hook on the number 11 of Rick Frazier, 11A actually, Ford Taurus. You can see the field filing through just in the background. We've said it many times, but once again, we cannot say just how great it is to work here at the World Center of Racing and have this fantastic safety crew at our disposal. They do such a great job with these recovery work and get it done in the most expeditious fashion. Looks like they're picking up a few pieces parts as there was contact between those two cars. And we understand Brent Bernath in the CTI Financial car was able to get it refired, and he has continued on his own. So we only have the car of Rick Frazier to contend with. Looks like they just about got it to the point where they can get it off the ground. Well, we've got just a minute, and sadly he's involved in an incident. Rick Frazier, we had an interview with Rick talking about the fact that this is Father's Day, and he is racing with his son in this race. Let's take a moment and play that while we're waiting.
I'm Rick Frazier. This is my oldest son, Scott.
I'm Scott Frazier.
And we are with the
HSCRA.
HSCRA. It's a brand new organization, so with the numbers and letters all mixed up. And part of SVRA, we've been racing with SVRA for 6 years. And we switched to stock cars the end of last year.
We raced Group 1 cars before this, depending on the organization, but small bore British cars.
We raced enduro motorcycles for a long time, since the 90s. And running through the woods, you get banged up quite a bit. So what used to take 3 weeks to heal now takes about 3 months, you know. And so we decided, we better switch to cars. We're getting banged up too much. They're extremely easy cars to drive if you want to just go out and cruise the track. They're extremely difficult cars to drive if you want to go fast.
These cars are a huge difference to transition from a small bore British car to a car like this. The little car doesn't want to go fast. You have to make it go fast. And this only wants to go fast. So that's the transition is not insurmountable, but it's a pretty big difference. This connects the corners a whole lot quicker. The braking point is probably the biggest difference that I've noticed. You're going considerably faster, and the brakes are considerably poorer. So it's a lot of fun, big learning curve. This is a really fun way to go faster on the racetrack and do it as safely as possible. Yeah, these are probably the safest cars you can put yourself in.
Yeah. If you're going to crash, you want to crash in a stock car.
Yeah, there's no crashing allowed, but
they're built like tanks. I mean, they're meant to crash and survive.
Safe, fun, purpose-built.
We've been racing the cars now. This is our 6th year.
6 years, yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun. We travel all over to do it, as far north as Wisconsin, as far south as Texas. So for us, it's been a real treat to be able to do it, and for me to be able to do it with Scott, it's fantastic.
I agree. Who wouldn't want to go race and hang out with their dad on the weekend? So it's been good fun.
And it's Father's Day to boot, so what more could you ask for? Sadly, Rick's day came to a premature end after he had a coming together with Brent Bernath there at turn 1. Scott's still out there circulating. He is currently running in 13th position in the number 9 car, his Dodge Charger. And we're just in time to go back to racing, so that was well placed. There's the number 9, the Budweiser liveried machine of Scott Frazier. just behind the furniture row, number 78 of Doug Bowles. Everybody nicely lined up. We've still got about 9.5 minutes and 7 laps to go, so I think we'll run out of time before we run out of laps. These cars lapping at about 1.5 minutes a lap. Safety cars pulled off. Time for the restart here. Everybody's accordioning up just a little bit. Watch for that number 47. He's going to be tough after coming all the way from the back up to third position. And here we go. The green flag flies. Gemmel and DeFore in the first 2 positions. Then Joe Nemechek. Is he going to pull the trigger here or wait to get a little more temperature in the tires? He's going to wait. And right behind him, the target, number 41 of Brian Norman. And Justin DeFore goes a little bit wide, and that is going to open the door for Joe Nemechek as he dives to the inside of turn 4 and makes it happen. Again, since he's responsible for maintaining a lot of these cars, I'm sure there's an unofficial understanding that you don't wreck the number 47. So down into turn number 7 they go, with Nemechek now in second spot. Ryan Gemmel, his teammate, in the 6A. Pair of Toyota Camrys. Gemmel's is a 2009, and Joe's is a 2006. Right on his tail as they head toward turn 13. Oh, and we got a spin for the 15A of Rodney Reston. He was in 7th place at the time of that spin. And here goes Joe. Going to tuck into the draft of his teammate here. And he's going to waste no time pulling to the inside. Nemechek to the front on race lap number 7, or 8 actually. We've completed 7. Joe set the fast lap of the race on that last lap, a 1:30.5 to take over the lead. And like he says, it's all about having fun. And I'm sure he's doing that, going from last to first. Camden Murphy now shown in the 3rd spot in the 29A. Tell you what, take nothing away from Ryan Gemmel. He is staying right with his teammate and more experienced driver for sure. Camden Murphy in the 29, the Goodwrench liveried machine. Then comes the 41 of Brian Norman. Justin DeFore just behind him. Then Claire Schwendeman in the number 20. Followed by Larry Hoopaw in the Jimmy John's liveried number 29. That is Hoopaw in front of this battle. Scott Dolphy in the Silverado, the number 4, with the mobile livery. And then the Furniture Row number 78 of Carter Bowles, who started back in row 10. So Carter's had a good run up through the field as well. Just about 5 minutes left in this one. Great to see the different lines that some of these drivers choose to use as they drifted through that high-speed turn 11 up onto the banking. It's a good run for Camden Murphy in that 29A. As those three have really put some distance between themselves and Brian Norman in the 41. A good shot of that Monte Carlo. From 2006 Monte Carlo. There's the 14. We haven't talked much about Ricky Knuckles in the number 14 car. Currently in 14th position, as it turns out. Just behind him, Brian Shafranek in the white Roush Mustang, the number 60. And in the distance, Rodney Reston in the 15A with the Skip Barber livery, as Safranek goes straight there at turn 1. Perhaps a problem, as he didn't even make an attempt to make the turn. And here's the battle between the 41 and the 16. That's for 4th place. Brian Norman in the target, number 41. Justin DeFore in the 16 with the 3M livery. As they're trying to sort out 4th place between them. Timing has told us we're going to see the white flag the next time the leaders come by start finish. So 2 laps to go. Justin DeFore looking racy here. Not quite close enough to pop out. Claire Schwindeman not that far behind. On the last lap, Schwindeman was a little quicker than before. Not by much. Tell you what, Ryan Gemmel needs to keep an eye on his mirrors, because it sure looks to me that 29A of Camden Murphy is coming. Murphy's last lap was a 31 flat. Gemmel was a 32 flat, so Gemmel definitely needs to watch, as he's got some pressure coming from behind. As we're coming to the white flag, Joe Nemechek 19th to 1st. Lead him to that white flag. Top 3, really the class of the field. Brian Norman well back in that number 41. And here we go. Can Camden Murphy pull the trigger here on Gemmel on the final lap? Joe Nemechek has backed off his pace just a little bit, as he's got a pretty comfortable 2-second lead. Gemmel's car really gets off the corners well, as we saw. As we go a little deeper in the pack, there's the 4 of Scott Dolphy. The 29 just in front of him. Carter Bowles got around them both. Bowles up to 7th now in the 78. Then Larry Hoopaw in that number 29. With the Jimmy Johns logo. Scott Dolphy right behind in the Silverado. Here we go in the battle for 2nd. Going to make it interesting here right to the end. Gemmel, perhaps tires fading on him just a little bit on this hot afternoon. Temperatures already in the 90s. As they sweep up onto the front straightaway, or onto the banking, shall we say, and then soon onto the front straightaway. Camden Murphy is right there if he can find a way through. It's going to be a tall order, I think. As they accelerate up onto the front straightaway, the checkered flag in the hand of the starter. Front row Joe going to take the win. No surprise there. Ryan Gemmel, hangs on for the second spot. Camden Murphy takes a well-earned third position. Here comes the fourth and fifth place runners. That's going to be a question. Justin DeFore giving it his best, but can't quite catch up with Brian Norman, so DeFore has to settle for that fifth spot. Claire Schwindeman takes sixth. Carter Bowles, who started deep in the field, he started outside of row 10 in the number 78 Furniture Row car, finds himself in seventh, so that's a great recovery drive. Then Larry Hoopaw in the Jimmy Johns number 29. And here comes Scott Frazier holding up the family honor after his dad had that incident, not able to complete the race. Greg Richardson got across the line just in front of him in the 62 car with the South Point livery. There's the 14 of Ricky Knuckles coming to the line. There's the 60 of Brian Schifranek, who went long there at turn one with, I'm guessing, an issue of some kind, and had to take the little chicane, the long lap, if you will, to get back onto the racing surface. And that cost him some time as he'll come across the line in 16th position. He was in that general vicinity most of the race, so didn't cost him too much time. As our leaders into the pit lane, getting ready to head into the podium. Not quite sure why the weaving. Unless they want to get a little dust off the tires so they don't have to deal with it in the hauler. As, these guys are done for the day for sure. But great to see these stock cars. They do such a fantastic job. All right, next on the agenda, the finale of the weekend for the Formula Regional Americas drivers. We had an interesting race earlier today. A couple drivers with some mechanical issues that had to be dealt with. We had a couple drivers coming together. See our top finishers as they roll into position there in the podium. Ryan Gemmel getting unbelted, and he'll climb out here in just a second. There's front row Joe. Chatting up with some of his teammates there. As we're just setting up to get our next race underway, let's take a moment to thank some of the folks that make this broadcast possible.
The Road America Speed Tour returns to Road America June 28th through the 30th, featuring the Trans Am Series presented by Pirelli, the Cube 3 Architecture TA2 Series, International GT, PSSA, FRP, and Optima Search for the Ultimate Street Car. Saturday, you can take part in the Haggerty Cars and Caffeine Car Show with Parade Lab. You do not want to miss the Road America Speed Tour. For tickets, simply go to speedtour.net.
So with the finish of the race earlier today for the Formula Regional Americas Championship, Ryan Sheehan retakes the point with a 10-point advantage over his teammate Patrick Woods-Toth, as Woods-Toth finished 6th in that race. Titus Sherlock had a tough day for both the races here this weekend. He's had an issue with the car in both races, so he did not score points, but he maintains 3rd in the points championship. But Nicola Verda, on the strength of her podium, closes to within 14 points of her teammate, Titus Sherlock, as the field coming out behind the safety car. Nico Ambiato and Jet Bowling now tied for 6th and 7th in the points championship. Hayden Bowlesby only 5 behind him for 8th. 3 points further back is Justin Garrett, and brand new driver for us, Theodore Jensen, already into the top 10 in the points championship with a 3rd and a 4th place finish so far. Let's introduce these drivers to you as they're heading around behind the safety car on their formation lap. Starting outside of row 7 is Titus Sherlock in the number 31 from Prosper, Texas, driving for Crosslink Kiwi Motorsports. Next to him is the 07 of Anthony Autiello out of Cranston, Rhode Island. He drives for Momentum Motorsports. James Lawley outside of row 6 in car number 77. James out of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Kart Barn Racing, his sponsor for Atlantic Racing. Next to him is the 24 of Kevin Jansen, one of our Masters competitors out of Deerfield Beach, Florida. He's sponsored by U.S. Power Group and Data Center Solutions for Crosslink Kiwi. In row 5, the man who delivered our invocation these last 2 days, Landon Matriano Lim, in car number 73 from Shreveport, Louisiana. He's sponsored by 739 Racing. He races for Crosslink Kiwi. And the number 22 of Hayden Bowlesby from Folsom, Louisiana, in the IGY6 Motorsports team. They're sponsored by Save 22. Row 4 on the outside, the only female in the field, car number 6, Nicola Verda from Courtenay, British Columbia, Canada. She's sponsored by Valley Kitchens and Colonial Countertops for Crosslink Kiwi. Next to her, the number 55 of the Chilean, Nico Ambiato. He lives in Florida during the racing season. Sponsored by T-Link and Allegro for the Velox USA Speed Factory team. In row number 3 on the outside, car 25, Rico Slauman from Los Angeles, California. He's a driver for Crosslink Kiwi Motorsports. Driver making his debut here this weekend alongside him, car number 1, Theodore Jensen from Randers, Denmark. For Jensen Global Advisors, his sponsor, Jensen the team. He's had a podium and a 4th already this weekend. In row 2 on the outside, car 02 is Jet Bowling from Dallas, Texas for Crosslink Kiwi Motorsports. Notched his first podium of the season in race 2 earlier today. Next to him is the number 17 of Justin Garrett from Miami, Florida. He races for the Speed Factory. It's a good starting position for Justin. He was able to turn a quick lap to put him in this position. And now on the front row, the number 66 of the new points leader, Ryan Sheehan, out of Austin, Texas. He drives for Crosslink Kiwi Motorsports. And your pole sitter, the reigning F4 U.S. champion, in the number 27, Patrick Woods-Toth, out of Saint-Lazare, Quebec. And he drives for Crosslink Kiwi Motorsports. That's your starting grid, and the front 2 rows rolling into position here on the front straightaway for the Formula One style standing start. As the last of the field rolling into position. Our race director, Scott Goodyear, has instructed the teams to clear the pit wall just as quickly as possible so these cars don't have to sit motionless and overheat potentially. As you'll see, once the field is set, the green lights on the start gantry will light. There they are, to indicate that the field is set. And then the light sequence will begin. There it comes. 5 red lights illuminate. When they go out, we are racing. And there we go. Good start from the front row. As it looks like Ryan Sheehan getting a little bit of a jump. But then Patrick Woods-Toth able to get a nose ahead as they come down toward turn number 1. That's Justin Garrett right behind them in third, but Woods-Toth is going to slot into the lead. Jet Bowling right there. Landon Matriano Lim working his way through some traffic a little deeper in the pack. As Nico Ambiato gets a good jump right up behind Jet Bowling, it looks like. Nicole Haverda shuffled back just a little bit, started in 8th position, but there's still time to settle things out as we got a good 3-car battle there for about 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. 3 wide down into turn 7 for the first time. Everybody's shuffling for position. Titus Sherlock will be one to watch. He started at the back of the field. And he's going to be looking to work his way forward as quickly as possible. But it is Woods-Toth trying to redeem himself after an unforced error in race number 2 earlier today. He had a spin. He was able to rejoin at the back and worked his way forward, but could only get as high as 6th by the time the checkers flew. As you can see, that white and sort of lime green colored car right there, that's Titus Sherlock working his way up from the back. At the end of lap 1, Woods-Toth and Sheehan at the front. Almost looks like one car. Sheehan was so close. As he pops out to the outside on the brakes, he might have a little better exit speed here, as Patrick Woods-Toth had to be a little defensive, but able to maintain the lead. This is the 3rd race of the weekend, and this is where tire strategy is so very important. These drivers and teams each have 2 sets of Hankook slicks to last the entire weekend, starting with qualifying. They can use used tires in practice and testing, but when they get into qualifying mode, they've got to have a fresh set of tires. As it looks like Woods-Toth driving a little defensively down the Holman Straight, but he's able to keep his teammate behind him. 17 of Justin Garrett hanging right in there in 3rd spot. Jeff Bowling just behind him in 4th. Joe Ambiato started in 7th, has made up a couple spots. He's up to 5th. Hayden Bowlesby just behind him. But this battle at the front is a good one. These 2 teammates share the data, as does everybody on the Crosslink Kiwi team. 8 of the 14 cars from the same team, so they share data, able to take advantage of the learnings of their teammates, but of course everybody keeps a little in reserve. It's all about looking after your own championship, but teamwork is important as well. And it helps with a big team like that. They can make the adjustments to the cars to suit them to the driver's style. In fact, we had an issue. It's been such a hot weekend. We had an issue with some of these cars with the ECU, the engine control unit, and the side pods overheating. And Crosslink Kiwi worked with the technical department here to try to find a solution for that, and they came up with one. And it's been authorized to be used on all the cars. I understand we have a car off as the safety car is being asked to make ready. He hasn't pulled out just yet. Looks like we might have another full course yellow here. No indication yet where that might be. Yes, once the field sees the double yellow flags, they're required to reduce speed. Yeah, we've got a car in the barrier, and that looks like the 73 of Landon Matriano Lim. overshooting the braking point there for Landon Matriano Lim. And the car into the tire barrier, which of course does its job to decelerate the car. Landon was running in 10th position at the time of the incident. And you can see right there, it's at the chicane at turns 5 and 6, where he had that off. I'm guessing there might have had perhaps something broke on the car. I don't know whether there was contact. We didn't see the incident itself. That's kind of an unusual place to have that happen, so he must have gotten off driver's left and into the barrier. So let's reset the field for you. Patrick Woodstoth, your leader. Ryan Sheehan in second. Justin Garrett in third. Jet Bowling in fourth. All four of those drivers, 3 of those 4, are from the Crosslink Kiwi stable. Titus Sherlock, after starting at the back, has worked his way up to 5th. So he's driving with the red mist a bit. Hayden Bowlesby just behind him in 6th in the 22. Theodore Jensen, the debutant this weekend, in 7th. Nicole Laverda in 8th. James Lawley in 9th. Kevin Jansen in the 10th position. In the battle with our Masters competitors, Anthony Otiello, the other Masters driver in the field, in the 07. Nico Ambiato in the 12th position. Rico Slauman in 13th, and Landon Matriano Lim and we're hearing that Landon is out of the car and seems okay. Anytime there is an incident like that, the driver will be given a free ride to the medical center just for a precautionary checkup. But initial reports are that Landon's out of the car and appears to be okay. So that's good news. Safety car has been asked to pick up their speed just a little bit. James Rogerson, our safety car driver, will be happy to oblige, as these cars can easily overheat with the temperatures in the 90s. There's not a lot of air flowing through the radiators. Of course, they have no fans. It's all about like a shark moving through the air. They have to do that to keep the radiators full. And so if they have to slow down too much, the cars can overheat. And we've had issues with that throughout the course of the weekend. We talked about the modifications that the Crosslink Kiwi team researched to help with the problems with the ECU cooling. That's been written into the technical specification as an option for any of the teams if they wish to use it. As they come by the scene of the incident, once again, the report is that the driver, Landon Matriano Lim, is out of the car and appears okay, so that's the great news. And the race director has made the decision to red flag this race. What that means is everybody will come into the pit lane and sit in. It's in the interest of keeping the cars cool and the drivers as well. And also, the race director has the option to stop the clock during this red flag condition. The teams may not work on the cars. They may provide driver comfort. Basically, they can provide a bottle of water and an umbrella for the driver, but they're not permitted to make any changes to the cars during this red flag situation. Again, these are all FIA regulations, which we are required to run under, as this is an FIA-sanctioned race class. So the teams getting that word are already standing by to, they can use blowers to keep air moving through the radiators to keep the cars cool. But no repairs to the cars are permitted during this red flag situation. Once the field goes green, if somebody has to make repairs, they have to wait until the field is released, and then they can start work on the car at that point. Aaron Colwell, our technical delegate, patrolling the pit lane to make sure everybody stays within the regulations. The race clock is still running at this point. We'll see if the decision is made to stop it. That is at the race director's discretion. Bob Russo, with the red flag in hand, stops the leader. Just past our commentary position here, just past the yard of bricks. And crew members coming out with fans and umbrellas in hand to try to keep the cars and the drivers cool in this hot afternoon. And the clock, the race clock has stopped. We'll have about 20 minutes remaining when we roll away once again. Again, this is predominantly to allow the teams to keep the cars cool and the drivers cool, rather than countless laps behind the safety car. And also by stopping the race clock, then they get more green flag race time. So you can see one of the teams getting ready to do some repair work. It's the 22 of Hayden Bowlesby, and they have elected to do work on the car. The consequences are they will go to the back when the field is restarted, but looks like they want to put a new nose on that car, so Hayden may have had contact, which damaged the front wing, and they've elected to accept the penalty. And yeah, we can see the right-hand side of that wing is missing its end plate, so there was some contact there. There's a good shot of Ryan Sheehan, our points leader, coming into this race. Points are only scored for finishing positions. We don't award points for leading the most laps or winning the pole or leading a lap. It's strictly finishing position, with 25 points for the win, 18 for second, 15 for third, all the way down to a single point for 10th. And if you finish 11th or below, you score no points. So as we mentioned, with the results of Race 2 for the weekend, run earlier today, Ryan Sheehan, the points leader, by about 10. If the race finishes the way it is, that will close up some, but he'll still maintain the points lead, as Woodstoth won't make up enough points to take over the points lead, even with a win, unless Ryan finishes down the order. Listening to our race director, Scott Goodyear, is in communication with the teams, letting them know that the holdup right now is the time required to repair the tire barrier back there at the chicane at the scene of the incident, and that is an unknown quantity at this point. And in deference to the races yet to come on the schedule this afternoon, the race director can make a determination of how much time will be left on the clock once we get back underway, as there are 4 more races to go, 3 more on the stream for those of you watching us on youtube.com/SpeedTour TV. Thank you so much for being with us, and I want to give a special shout out to the folks from Live Race Media who were pressed into service here at the last minute to make this possible, as there was a scheduling conflict for one of our partners that required a change to be made to allow this to happen. And these folks have stepped up and done a great job on short notice. providing the infrastructure to keep these images going to you. And we are grateful to them and all the hard work they've done over the last week, literally. I mean, this came together like a week ago. We appreciate the hard work that they've done to make this happen. So we're at a stop here as we wait for confirmation from the track crews as to how much longer the repairs will take. For those of you who have not followed this championship, these Formula Regional Americas cars are built right here in North America. The Ligier Automotive North America has an office in Denver, North Carolina. And the cars are assembled and maintained from there. They do rely on their partners at Ligier in France to do some of the major composite forming, but the North American operation has a substantial composite operation of their own. So much of the car is homegrown, although they do rely on the French support. But the power plant for this car is maintained by Mountoon, our engine partner. It's based on the Honda K20, which is the engine in the Honda Civic Type R. A turbocharged 2-liter 16-valve inline 4, making just north of 300 horsepower for these cars. Mountoon does some massaging to the internals of the engine to increase its reliability, and they do a great job of maintaining them and have done so all season long for us. The tire partner for the championship, all three of our championships, is Hankook. Danny Von Dongen and his crew of Hankook Racing North America provides the tires, both dry and wet if we need them. And Hankook came to this partnership after supplying tires for some other F4 and FR championships around the world. So they brought that knowledge to our championship as well, and that's been a big boost, as these tires have been very popular among the teams, as they're not particularly picky, meaning the tire doesn't generate a lot of grip for like a lap or two and then start to fall off. The tires are a little more forgiving and a little more level in their degradation. They do degrade, of course, any race tire does, but the teams have been very complimentary about how the Hankooks have worked. They've been with us for several years now, and they're doing a great job. The local sanction is by FCCA Pro Racing, which is an ACUS affiliate. That is, ACUS is the FIA affiliate in North America. And, of course, Pirella Motorsports Holdings has the promotional rights to the series, all three of our series. We have a brand new series that we started just this year, the Ligier JSF4 Championship, and that is for the original Generation 1 F4 chassis that we've been racing since 2016. And the brand new Ligier JSF 422 was introduced this year. We debuted it at Road America a year ago, and the first race meeting for that new car was our last race meeting at Road America as we debuted it. And an opportunity for the first generation cars, there's still plenty of them out there, for drivers and teams to use that as a stepping stone to jump into the FIA sanctioned F4 US Championship. Has been very well subscribed, and we dropped the minimum age to 14 for those drivers. Normally, by FIA regulation, the F4 drivers have to be at least 15 years of age, but with the JSF4, we've dropped that to 14. So youngsters coming right out of go-karting looking for an opportunity to step up into the road to Formula One, as we call the ladder series. Tony Pirella came up with the idea of the JSF4 series, and so far it's been a resounding success in the two meetings we've had already. All three of the championships will be together next weekend at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course as we continue with the Speed Tour, the Mid-Ohio Speed Tour. That's my home track, so I get to sleep in my own bed. But looking forward to those 3 rounds for each of those championships. while we're waiting for the word from race control as to when we might get this restarted, let's talk a little bit about the teams that are racing here this weekend in the Formula Regional Americas Championship.
Yeah, it's great having a lot of teammates and also very good teammates. My main championship rivals are my teammates with Patrick and Ryan, and we can see each other's video and data, so it's kind of hard to hide from each other sometimes. So you do have to work together, but when you're on track, since there's so many of us, you still kind of have to race them like anyone else. And yeah, it's great to have you learn so much from experienced teammates and fast teammates, a lot more than you would without any or slow ones, so it's good.
It makes it easy and tough at the same time. I mean, we have data shared and video shared between us, so everything that I do, the other guys are able to copy, but as well, everything they do, I'm able to copy. So it helps us overall become faster, but also makes us a lot closer. I think if we were all individually doing our own thing, the results would look a little bit different. But at the end of the day, it's a team, and we got to work together. And if one of us is doing well, then it's a win for all of us.
I mean, we see each other's data and videos, so it's really easy to compare to your teammates. And it's good that we're usually all the quickest or up there. So we usually have access to P1's data, so that's always good. But yeah, you do start to see, kind of driving styles or little quirks or techniques over the season for your teammates.
It's interesting because they're all around you, right? So you're always like talking or seeing each other walking around. It's definitely really interesting because we also share the data, which is super nice. So we know where we're supposed to be at. So I can go look at one of the other drivers' data and be like, okay, that's what he's doing, which is a huge benefit, right? Like the other guys can't really do that because the fastest guys are under our tent, right? So they can't really take our data. But yeah, it's definitely cool having them around and talking, and everyone has different experiences, right? So like this guy will drive this way, and just like kind of like learning from them as well. It's really cool.
Well, honestly, when you get behind the wheel and you get out on the track, everyone is competition. So it actually really helps us. Everyone's quicker because there's more of us. We get to see things that other teams that don't have as much data don't see. We can try different strategies and change setups on the cars, and it's very, very technical. Racing is just a little bit in the car, and 90% of it is done in the trailer with the engineers and the mechanics doing setups and making changes. Data is everything.
Yeah, obviously I don't have anything to compare to, so except the lap times, but you can't really see that much out of that. But I mean, we just need to work on that and work forward. So it will be easier if you have data to look at to see the difference. If you were slow in that corner, it's difficult to know when you're the only one to look at. You can only really look at the video and see if you're doing anything wrong.
Just some insight into the powerhouse team that is Crosslink Kiwi Motorsports. And we're just getting updates that the 5-minute warning's been given to these drivers who are about ready to restart. There will be 10 minutes remaining once we get rolling once again. Just had information passed to me that there were 2 cars involved in that incident there at the chicane. Rico Slauman was the other in the 25 car, as well as Landon Montreano Lim in the 73. Both drivers out of the car and appear to be okay. Precautionary checkups, of course, to still be done, but that's the word that we're getting. Both drivers apparently okay and out of the cars. So we will restart with 12 cars in the field rather than the full 14. But we're under 5 minutes to go here. And again, we'll have 10 minutes of racing left once we head around. It'll be a single file restart. We don't do a standing start for restarts in this situation after a red flag, so it'll be a single file restart. Safety car driver James Rogerson talking with our race director about the pace that they want to take on this out lap or formation lap, just to be sure that it's quick enough to keep the engines cool on these race cars. One minute has been the warning given as the safety car begins to roll away. The drivers will be restarting the cars. These cars have starters. They don't require an external starter like an Indy car. But anybody who's been around racing motors knows that sometimes racing engines don't like to restart when they're hot. So hopefully everybody will be able to get it fired up. We haven't had any problems in the past, but we don't normally run in these kind of temperatures either. One of the reasons that we race at New Orleans as our first race of the year is because the temperatures down there are a little less rugged than they can be in the middle of the summer. And the field's rolling away. The 22 car of Hayden Bowlesby will be required to hold in the pit box until everyone has gone by. And let's make sure everybody is restarted. They have. Nico Ambiato will be next in line, and then here comes Hayden Bowlesby. Again, because the repairs had to be made or were chosen to be made by the team during the red flag condition, he has to go to the back of the line for the restart. So the safety car with some pace, making his way through turn 3. Once again, we can't say enough good things about the track crew here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Fantastic job keeping these cars and drivers safe, and when barrier repairs are required, they do so with great expediency, and we thank them and appreciate their hard work on our behalf for all of our racing here this weekend. The SVRA has kept them busy as well. As Patrick Woods-Toth, your leader, Ryan Sheehan in second, Justin Garrett in third, Jet Bowling in fourth, Titus Sherlock up to fifth after starting last. Hayden Bowlesby will be at the back. Theodore Jensen, Nicole Laverda, then James Lawley, Kevin Jansen, Anthony Autiello, and Nico Ambiato with Hayden Bowlesby in the 12th position at the restart. As the safety car has pulled away from the field, the leader is required to maintain safety car pace, and he can begin to accelerate after he exits turn 13. Drivers must maintain their position. They can't initiate a pass until they've passed the scoring pylon here on the front straightaway. And here we go. The leader has pulled the trigger. Everybody follows along single file. Once they get past the scoring pylon, they can start a pass. And there's the 17 of Justin Garrett, and he looks like he may be falling afoul of the 02 of Jet Bowling. Patrick Woods-Toth going to lead them through turn 1. Down to the inside goes Jet Bowling and Titus Sherlock there as well. Remember, Titus had to start at the back after problems earlier in the race today, and he's fighting hard to get in behind Theodore Jensen. So there's Jensen, Titus Sherlock, and then just behind him is Jet Bowling, I believe, but the top two as they were. Now there's Jensen up into the third spot with Titus Sherlock just behind him. So Theodore Jensen looking for his second podium on the weekend, on his debut weekend here. Titus Sherlock certainly anxious to get back on the box if he can. Titus has had 2 wins already this season and another podium, all that at Road America. But no joy so far this weekend for him. He has not scored points in either of the first 2 rounds, so retribution is something he's looking for, and he'll do his best to find a way around. With 8.5 minutes remaining on the clock. The 2 leaders come by, then this battle for third between Sherlock and Jensen as they come down into turn number 1. I don't think there's enough closeness for anybody to make a move. Just behind them is Jet Bowling and Nicole Laverda. Justin Garrett, who was up into a podium potential, got swamped at the start, all the way back to 7th now. Just behind Nicole Laverda. James Lawley, Kevin Jansen, Hayden Bowlesby has picked off Nico Ambiato and Anthony Autiello. So Bowlesby working his way back forward after that wing change. And he's up into the points in 10th right now. Turn our attention back to the front with Woods Toth with about a 5-car length advantage, I would call it. At the line, it was about half a second. Great battle for third between debutant Theodore Jensen, Danish driver, and Titus Sherlock. One of several Texas drivers in the field. Titus out of Prosper, Texas. This third place battle is a dandy. Jensen has been a real revelation to us here, as he did not race with us in the first 2 rounds at NOLA and Road America, making his debut here this weekend, and he has been on the pace from the jump. I looked at the results from testing on Thursday, and he was at the top of the charts in one of the test sessions. That might be skewed just a little bit because he's a new driver. He didn't have any used tires to carry forward for those practice and testing sessions, so he was probably on a new set of tires, which may skew the results just a little bit. But in race mode, he backed it up with a podium finish in his very first race with us, and then backed that up with a 4th place finish in race number 2. So he's the real deal for sure. We'll see if he can hold off Titus. Titus raced with us in the F4 championship for the past 2 seasons. He was the vice champion a year ago of the F4 championship behind Patrick Woods Toth, who won the championship, obviously, had the scholarship to step up. Titus had 2 wins and a pair of other podiums in the F4 championship a year ago. Patrick Woods Toth appears to be in pretty good shape, as we've got about 6 minutes remaining. Woods Toth setting the fast lap of the race at a 24.7 the last time by. And here they come to the line. Battle for third, just as good. And Jet Bowling kind of resurgent here, as he had fallen back just a bit from Jensen and Sherlock, and now they're about equally spaced, I would call it. He's Jet right there, and right behind him his teammate Nicola Verda. Nicole with a podium already this weekend. That's her 3rd podium on the season. She raced with us in kind of an exploratory fashion a year ago in the F4 championship. Great battle for the 3rd spot. Titus Sherlock right on the gearbox of Theodore Jensen. Ooh, looking for a move here at turn 8 and then 9. They're side by side. Sherlock goes a little wide to force Theodore Jensen off the track. The race director will have a good look at that. So Theodore Jensen drops back a couple spots, losing all the momentum, having to go off into the grass. So that'll move Titus up into 3rd. Meanwhile, the 2 leaders coming to the line. Ryan Sheehan offsetting just a little bit, trying to keep as much clean air on that front wing as he possibly can. And tucks back in behind his teammate in the run down to turn 1 with about 4 minutes remaining in this one. Titus Sherlock up onto the podium. Jet Bowling in 4th. Nicola Verda 5th. Theodore Jensen rejoined in 6th. Justin Garrett in 7th. Hayden Bowlesby, after starting at the back on the restart, stays in 8th. Ambiato and James Lawley, the final in the points-paying positions. White flag next time by, we're being told by timing and scoring. Patrick Woods Toth bringing it onto the front straightaway. The white flag in the hand of the starter. One more lap to go, as those two have put a little distance between themselves and Titus Sherlock. Jet Bowling just behind, as once again it's Crosslink Kiwi in the top 4 positions. As we follow this lead battle as they make their way around on the final lap. Unless Woods Toth makes a mistake, it looks like he might have a win in his back pocket. But we also understand we might have had a couple cars come together at turn 1. There's Jet Bowling. There's Nicole Averda, and there is Theodore Jensen. I think it's the 17 might be missing in action, Justin Garrett. We saw 2 cars there at turn 1, but we're going to come to the checkers here, and then we'll sort that out. Hayden Bowlesby may be the other car involved. Yeah, that's getting confirmation now. Justin Garrett and Hayden Bowlesby had a collision at turn 1. That's going to move Nico Ambiato and James Lawley, Kevin Jansen, and Anthony Otiello into the points-paying positions. Patrick Woods Toth takes the win. Ryan Sheehan in second. Titus Sherlock in third. A great recovery drive from the back. Jet Bowling in fourth. Nicole Averda in fifth. Theodore Jensen in sixth. Nico Ambiato in the 7th spot. Justin Garrett in 8th. Actually, we're waiting on the 8th place car. There it is. That's the 77 of James Lawley. Kevin Jansen right behind him in 9th. And we expect Anthony Otiello to be the final car on the lead lap. And here comes Anthony onto the front straightaway. And he'll take the last points-paying position. As Bowlesby... Actually... Justin Garrett, Hayden Bowlesby not finishing in the points. Rico Sloman and Landon Montreo-Lim involved in the incident at turn 5. I'm going to make my way down to the podium to interview our top 3 finishers, but don't go away. We're going to continue with Ragtime Racers, the 1920 and earlier race cars coming out on track for their exhibition. We'll talk to you about that in just a few minutes.
SpeedTour returns to Road America June 28th through the 30th, featuring the Trans Am Series presented by Pirelli, the Cube 3 Architecture TA2 Series, International GT, PSSA, FRP, and Optima Search for the Ultimate Street Car. Saturday, you can take part in the Haggerty Cars and Caffeine Car Show with Parade Lab. You do not want to miss the Road America Speed Tour. For tickets, simply go to speedtour.net.
All right, let's get our podium celebration underway, get our drivers to get their suits zooped back up. Finishing in third spot, 2 wins and now 2 podiums on the season for Titus Sherlock. Titus, well done. Unfortunately, you had to come from the back. It hasn't been a great weekend so far, but you made up for it. A great drive.
Yeah, I had to start from the back, having broken down in race 2 leading, but yeah, I made the most of what I could, and I think I maximized the result today.
Anybody to thank?
The whole Crosslink Kiwi team. It's been a rough weekend, but they've been working hard the whole time, and I can't thank them enough. Everyone that comes out to support me, my uncle, my girlfriend, everyone watching at home, thank you. And anyone else I forgot, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Third place finish for Titus Sherlock, ladies and gentlemen. Now with 4 podiums on the season to go with 2 more wins, Ryan Sheehan, he's still your points leader. It was a hot race.
Oh, it's very hot. Yeah, sitting in the pit lane for that long didn't help, but yeah, I was able to bring it home.
Did that help make the tires last a little longer after the restart?
Yeah, probably. The last 2 laps weren't very fun with the tires, so I'm kind of glad we didn't have to do a full race on that set.
Cool breeze. Well, looks like you're going to carry the points lead into the next round. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, the whole Crosslink Kiwi team, my parents, my engineer Steven, my sponsors, Harrison Noel, Sawbelt, Goose Creek. Big thanks to them.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second place finish for Ryan Sheehan, ladies and gentlemen. Now with 4 wins and 2 other podiums on the season, Patrick Woods-Toth, ladies and gentlemen. Patrick, congratulations. I know you had a little spin in the race just earlier today, but you made up for it in good fashion.
Yeah, it was a pretty straightforward race 3. Just got a good start and held the lead. It was pretty hot, especially like Ryan said when we were in the pits, but luckily we had some fans who were blowing some air on us, and yeah, just managed the tires, managed the engine, and it was a really good race.
Anybody to thank?
Yeah, of course, Crosslink Kiwi, Orlando, FSMQ, Ron Fellows, my family, my friends, everyone. It's a good day.
Congratulations. Top of the box for Patrick Woods-Toth. I want to acknowledge our drivers with the Radford Racing School hats on. The Radford Karts to Cars Scholarship is what Patrick Woods-Toth took advantage of to move into the F4 Championship a year ago, and look where it's landed him. He took the championship as well as certainly been among the front runners in the Formula Regional Championship all season long. We'll now go to the Ligier hats as we thank Ligier, the builder of these beautiful F3 chassis, built to FIA safety specifications to keep our drivers as safe as possible. And that's what we are glad to have happen. And then Hankook Tires, our spec tire supplier for all 3 of our series, do a fantastic job for us. Before the champagne, we'll do the watch, if that's okay. At the end of the day on Sunday, we have one more award to give. The stewards of the meeting vote on the Omologato perfectly timed move of the race. And basically that's for the driver who, in their opinion, has done the best job over the course of the weekend. And to present the watch, I would like to welcome Nicole Haverda, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations, Nicole. All right, now it's time for a little celebration, and I'm going to get out of the line of fire. Let's have one more round of applause for Titus Sherlock, Ryan Sheehan, Patrick Woods-Toth, and our Omologato winner, Nicole Haverda.
Racers coming to you live from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's hard to believe, but this is the 10-year anniversary of holding a Speed Tour event at Indianapolis. It started out with just the SVRA doing different vintage groups, and today it's expanded to over 300 cars are racing here this weekend. And what a mix of classes and groups that the fans will have a chance to see. Let's start with the oldest. In this shop, you'll see there's 19 race cars that were prepared as they were raced pre-1920. So from 1900 to 1920, that is one race group that we call the pre-war class. That's organized by a guy named Brian Blaine, who brings this show around the country. The interesting thing, one of the cars here raced in the very first Indianapolis 500. That'll give you an idea of the quality of cars that are here. Then going forward and through the litany of classes, Group 1 is small bore production cars. Cars like Triumphs, MGs fill that class. Group 2 is open wheel formula cars, predominantly run with Formula Fords, but we also have a subgroup within that of Formula B cars, predominantly being Brabham cars. In fact, Jeff Brabham himself is racing here this weekend. Group 3 is also small bore production with just a little bit bigger displacement, but still typically 4-cylinder or less. Group 4 is from 1954 to 1959 production cars, U.S. cars. Group 6 is Group 5, I'm getting them all out of order. There's too many classes. Group 5 is, for the most part, sports racers. They're purpose-built race cars with small bore displacement. Group 6 is American muscle. Big block, small block, Corvettes, Camaros, Mustangs, Challengers. These are ground pounders that guys like me grew up with. Group 7 is a purpose-built race car that has a bigger bore. Group 8 is medium bore production cars. Cars like Alfa Romeos, Ferraris, Porsches, etc. Group 9, watch out. These are Indy level cars, Formula 1 level cars, open wheel, crazy fast. Group 10 is newer production cars. Group 11 is prototype cars. And Group 12 is newer production cars. And within the Group 10, to back up, there's also a full dedicated stock car class that has former NASCAR Cup level cars in it. So if you're a race fan, something that tickles your toes is here, I can tell you. It is a fabulous event, and it's just so nice. I mean, for me, to come here every year. As a kid, I watched the 500 dating back to a black and white TV. So to come through that tunnel, go out through Gasoline Alley, I've personally raced here for some of our events. It's magical.
And talk about magic. We've got a real treat for you. This is the only time you're going to see cars on the oval as these Ragtime Racers, these are pre-1920s race cars from all manner of manufacturers. We've got a Locomobile, we have a National, we have an EMF, we have a Packard, we have a Rio, we have a Romano Sturdivant, we have a Hudson, we have a Hall Scott, we have a Buick, we have a Lexington, we have a Duesenberg, and a number of Ford-based racers. The Fords, of course, all derivative of the Model T, as the safety car is going to bring them around up onto the high banks of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, when these cars raced, this was a brick-paved speedway, hence the name, the Brickyard. And this is a chance for them to really get back to their roots, as some of these cars actually raced in the Indianapolis 500 back in the day. The Ford-based cars, as we talked about, basically Model T-based, all on the four-cylinder, 177 cubic inch Model T motor. But a few speedy upgrades with an overhead valve conversion. That's certainly not uncommon. And different transmissions. They have a stock planetary two-speed transmission, but A lot of these teams will retrofit them with a 3-speed auxiliary transmission behind that, and then a 2-speed rear end, giving them 12 different forward speeds. The Lexington Minuteman 6 was powered by an Ansted 6-cylinder motor with 224 cubic inches. Overhead valves making about 73 horsepower back in the day. Wire wheels with rear mechanical brakes. The Lexington company began building cars in 1909. That was 2 years before the first Indy 500, and they were in Lexington, Kentucky, hence the name. But then the factory was moved a year later to Connorsville, Indiana, where they stayed until 1926. Ansted Engineering was supplying engines for them. And they were used in pretty much all the models. The Lexingtons were well known for participating in the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. They won first and second place and finished in one of the top 3 places every year thereafter. The Locomobile Model I is a Locomobile T-head 4-cylinder, 471 cubic inch engine with a 4-speed dual chain drive transaxle. 110-inch wheelbase with a steel frame weighing about a ton, 2,200 pounds. Locomobiles originally were steam-powered and were known as the... They licensed their power plants under the Stanley patent for the Stanley steamer, which a lot of people have heard of. Yes, they're going to line up in rows of 3 and come to the front straightaway. It's the only time you're going to see cars going this direction on the racetrack this weekend. There were only 2 of the Locomobile Model I's made for racing. They were both factory racers. In 1909, they raced in what was called the Cobe Trophy at the Crown Point Street Circuit in Crown Point, Indiana. Another unusual car that most people haven't heard of is the Hall Scott Racer. The Hall Scott Engine Company was a California-based company building engines for aircraft for the most part, and the Hall Scott is that silver number 9 making a move down to the inside here, trying to get to the front. It had a 9.9 liter, almost 10 liter motor, with 4 cylinders and an overhead cam. And this aircraft-based engine was used in the World War I Army Air Corps biplanes. They designed a all-aluminum race car body to compete in the Vanderbilt Cup race in 1917. The engine was mounted in a 1917 Rio frame and running gear to accommodate that extremely tall Hall Scott motor. This engine produces about 125 horsepower, which is double the power of the automotive engines of the day. But it produces 450 foot-pounds of torque, if you can believe it. That would be the pride of just about any contemporary race car. The Rio Sportster is the red number 15, a 4-cylinder L-head with about 35 horsepower. Rio are the initials of Ransom E. Olds, who, of course, founded the Oldsmobile in 1897. He left the company in 1905 and established the new company that was called Rio. Perhaps the most famous Rio episode was the 1912 Trans-Canada journey, traveling 4,176 miles from Halifax, Nova Scotia to Vancouver. The number 16 blue is a Packard, 1912 Packard, 430 cubic inch 4-cylinder T-head with an aluminum crankcase and iron cylinders, about 40 horsepower thereabouts. It was built in 1899 by the Ohio Automobile Company, later named the Packard Motor Car Company in 1902. This Packard race car was known as the Gray Wolf, a lightweight aerodynamic race car. Designed and driven by French engineer Charles Schmitt. Packard race cars on and off for 3 decades, including several cars for the Indy 500. Carl Fisher, one of the Packard dealers in Indianapolis, was one of the 4 founders of the Speedway back in 1909. One of the more unusual ones is a 1916 Sturdivant Romano Special. That's the maroon number 18, just coming by our vantage point now, with a 555 cubic inch aluminum V8. That's right, in 1916, a V8, 220 horsepower, and it was supercharged. Sturdivant was known as the world's largest industrial fan manufacturer, and when the First World War broke out, the Sturdivant Airplane Company was formed by the parent company to develop military aircraft. Their knowledge of the specialties there led to the production of this engine. Eugene Romano of Seattle was a designer and engineer who built several aircraft engine-powered race cars, the most famous of which won the Pikes Peak Hill Climb in 1916. Here's a 1919 Buick Racer. It's car 19, the red one, with a 6-cylinder 3.9-liter overhead valve, 27 horsepower power plant. Buick has a long list of participation in auto racing. The racing team in 1909 fielded cars driven by the likes of Louis Chevrolet and Bob Berman, winning trophies for the very first race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Car number 20, the blue one, is a national Indy racer with a T-head 460 cubic inch motor, making almost 100 horsepower. National cars were built from 1900 to 1924 right here in Indianapolis. The originals were electric, but they were phased out to the gasoline-powered cars. Arthur C. Newby was one of the founders of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where a national won the 500-mile race in 1912. An average speed of 78.2 miles per hour. It still holds the record for the largest displacement engine ever to win the Indy 500 at 460 cubic inches. The blue number 21 is a Hudson Super 6 with a 4.7-liter 6-cylinder L-head. One of the last manufacturers to enter racing was the Hudson Motor Company of Detroit. They'd been building cars since 1909, but in 1916, a revolutionary engine design guaranteed them a prominent place in the record books. In racing trim, the engine could withstand higher revs as a result of a new form of balanced crankshaft designed by the Hudson engineers. They had really no racing aspirations for the car, but they were curious of what it was capable for, so they hired the famous driver Ralph Mulford to drive a stock chassis car with a special fishtail body at Daytona and set a 1-mile record of 102 miles per hour at Daytona. They tried for a 24-hour record at Sheeps Bay, New York, where the same car covered 1,819 miles at an average speed of 75.8 miles per hour. At the time, that was faster than any human being had traveled in 24 hours with any form of transportation. Another unusual one is the 1911 EMF Model 30 with a 4-cylinder 226 cubic inch engine. EMF began building passenger cars in 1908, and during their brief existence, which was from 1908 to 1912, they built several race cars at their factory in Detroit. This was one of 3 EMFs sent directly from the factory to Savannah, Georgia, to race in the Tideman Trophy Race, one of 2 car races that were run in the morning of November 27th, 1911. The Vanderbilt Cup was run that same day after these 2 races. The EMFs made a clean sweep of the top 3 spots, with this very car, the number 33, finishing in 3rd spot. It was a 171-mile race, and the car averaged just under 60 miles an hour. Finally, the number 33 Maroon is a 1920 Duesenberg, straight 8-cylinder, as just about all the Duesenbergs were. Fred and Augie Duesenberg were the founders and passionate about racing from the very beginning, and built over 30 race cars throughout the teens and the 20s. Eddie Rickenbacker was one of the first to race one in the 1914 Indy 500, finishing in 10th spot. The Duesenberg, driven by Jimmy Murphy, won the 1921 French Grand Prix, the first American car to do so. And Duesenbergs eventually won the Indy 500 in 1922, 24, 25, and 27. We'd like to thank the folks from Ragtime Racers for bringing these beautiful cars to the place of their birth, really. A lot of these cars came into being with aspirations to run at the legendary Indianapolis 500. Some of them predated the first race, as the Locomobile's the oldest car here, 1909. But the National Indy Racer raced in the inaugural race in 1911, as did the EMF. And the Packard eventually broke through with a win, as did the Duesenberg multiple times over the course of their racing history. These cars are lovingly maintained by their owners. John Kent is the owner of the number 2 green car. Dan Ursig is his driver. Dick DeLuna is the owner of the Hall Scott, that beautiful silver-bodied number 9. Sean DeLuna is the driver of that car. The Malloy Foundation owns the Locomobile, the number 9, the gray number 9, the gray Wolf. Tom Malloy, the driver of that one. The Blaine Motorsports Foundation owns multiple cars. The National Indy Racer, the blue number 20, Frank Zukji is the driver. They also own the Packard, the 1912 Packard, the number 16, the blue 16, Chris Helling driving that one. They also own the Romano Sturdivant, Eric Ramos driving that maroon number 18. The Hudson is also a Blaine Motorsports Foundation car. Frank Walka drives that number 21 blue car. Charles Test drives the Lexington, the 1920 Lexington, the yellow number 7. And the final of the Blaine cars is the Ford Model T, the tan number 13 with Bill Bennett, the pilot on that one. Dale Kritz owns the EMF, the black number 33 with Richard Pappy as the driver. Chip Wright is the owner and driver of the 1914 Rio, that's the red number 15. Ed Archer, the winner, or the owner, should I say, and the driver of the yellow number 4 Ford Racer, 1915 Ford. Dale Kritz also owns the Buick, the 1919 Buick, the red 19. Dale Kritz is the driver on that one. The Duesenberg is owned by Bobby Green, the number 33 red Duesenberg, with Brian Blaine as the driver. And finally, Mark Edwards owns the 1920 Ford, as the checkered flag flies for this field, the yellow number 20, and he is the driver as well. If you haven't had a chance to do so, if you're here at the facility, we certainly encourage you to make your way over to their paddock right at the base of the pagoda in the paddock area. You can see their big hauler there, and all these cars are lined up for you to see up close and personal. Hard to believe that we've come so far in 100 years as far as the sophistication of what we call race cars, but these are the foundation pieces which we all aspire to as fans of fast motor cars. This is what constituted a fast motor car back in the day. Of course, the riding mechanic was de rigueur in that time, as the mechanic not only was there to provide visibility for the driver, as he was the sort of the eyes of the driver over the back of the car, and also responsible for maintaining fuel pressure and oil pressure and whatever, often with a hand pump off to the side of the car that the mechanic would have to pump up to keep the fuel pressurized and flowing into the engine. And of course, the riding mechanic was also there to help with repairs should anything break down, and these cars, frankly, did break down a lot. So having a mechanic on board was certainly a good thing. Ray Haroon, who won the original Indy 500 in 1911, was credited with inventing the rear view mirror, because he felt that the Marmon Wasp was reliable enough that he could drive it alone rather than have a riding mechanic, and didn't want the extra weight of the extra passenger. So he fabricated a mirror that mounted to the cowling so he could see behind him without having to risk running into somebody through the turns. And he is credited with having the first rear view mirror in a race car. And he used that to good effect to win the inaugural Indy 500 right here at the Brickyard. You know, speaking of the Brickyard, there's some trivia that Pam Shawtraw dug up for us regarding the Indy 500. A lot of people think that the first race here was a car race, but the first race was actually a balloon race, which took place while the Speedway was being built. The first car race actually was held in mid-August in 1909. Bob Berman drove a Buick to win the first auto race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It was called the Presto Light Trophy. It was 250 miles long. The question is often asked, why is this place called the Brickyard? Well, it was paved with bricks originally. It was originally considered that they would pave it with reinforced concrete, much as they did over in Europe at the Brooklands circuit. But it was quickly rejected as being A, too expensive, and B, too prone to damage from the frost heaves over the winter. It's fine in Great Britain where they don't have a lot of freezing, but here when we have a freeze cycle every winter, they felt that the concrete would not be able to be repaired cost effectively. So brick was the most desirable substitute available back in the early 1900s. So the founders purchased 3.2 million 10-pound bricks and had their crew pave the entire track with it. They started doing so on September 20th, and they got the whole job done in 2 months. Can you imagine laying 3.2 million bricks around this 2.5-mile facility in 2 months' time? That had to be an amazing undertaking. Part of the storied history of this storied facility. It's called the World Center of Racing for a reason, as seeing these cars that were there at the beginning, basically, is certainly a great way to add to the spectacle here of the Indianapolis Speed Tour for 2024. And thanks to the folks from Ragtime Racers for bringing these cars out for us to see. And thanks for Tony Perella and the whole crew at PMH for making it possible. We had an interview talking to one of the Ragtime Racers. Let's hear that interview now.
My name is Brian Blaine. I'm here with the Ragtime Racers, a group of pre-1920 race cars, creating what we call race exhibitions, where we show people what racing looked like 100 years ago. The cars are all original race cars. We wear original clothing, coveralls that they wore back in the day, leather helmets, goggles, and go out on the track and show people what racing looked like 100 years ago. Most of us had been vintage racing in the past, and some of us for many years. And the really old cars, which pre-World War I cars we refer to them as, were usually thrown in with cars much newer, sometimes as new as in the 50s. And they would call it a pre-war class, which is basically 1946 and earlier. And the problem that we ran into was that you've got cars that can't do over 50, 60 miles an hour, and you've got cars that are doing 160 miles an hour. And so we decided to organize a group so that we're only the pre-1920 cars, and we do our thing as a race exhibition. So we don't wear modern helmets, we don't wear fireproof clothing. We wear the leather helmets and goggles. The car can't have any improvements on it that weren't available in 1920. So if a turbocharger was invented after 1920, you can't put a turbocharger on it. And the cars are as close to original racing condition as we can make them. This is a 1912 Packard. We think this is the oldest Packard race car that still exists in the world. It was found in Argentina back in 1950, and the fellow that bought it started to collect the parts necessary to make it into a streetcar and spent 50 years literally gathering up parts, but he never finished putting it together, this was the beginning. You know, this was the embryo of racing that we have today. Not just the cars, but the technology and the drivers and the learning curve that they all had to go through. It's a part of our history that has, you know, almost gotten entirely lost until we started bringing these cars out so that people could see them again and hear them and smell them. And, I mean, there's nothing like the sound of a 450 cubic inch four-cylinder engine with pistons as big as coffee cans, you know, burning castor oil. You know, there's just nothing like it.
Thanks to Brian Blaine, as obviously one of the principals of the Ragtime Racers, making these cars available to us, and we certainly appreciate it. We have got 2 more races to go for those of you joining us on the live stream. Group 9 is coming up next in about 2 minutes. So we're just about ready to send out the fastest cars here this weekend. These are Wings and Slicks Formula cars, including a couple 2007 vintage Champ cars, and then a lot of Formula Atlantics and Formula 1000 cars, some of them relatively contemporary. There's a 2012 JDR in the field, a 2014 Van Diemen Elan. All of these cars built for speed, and unlike the cars we saw earlier in the Group 2, just prior to our we started our afternoon cart of racing with the fan walk. Those cars, if you noted, didn't have any wings, no aerodynamic downforce generated. These cars have loads of that, and they run on slick tires, of course, and that allows them to generate much higher cornering speeds than the cars used to be able to do so, and that makes the lap times faster. So these cars all represent the more contemporary Wings and Slicks, as we call it, Formula cars. And we got a nice field of them, 29 here this weekend. We'll see if they're all able to join us as we are on the countdown to bring these cars out on track. After this race, we've got one more sprint race, and then we'll say goodbye to our friends on the stream as groups 5, 7, and 11. Those are the prototypes from oldest in Group 5 through the more contemporary ones in Group 11. And we'll have them as our final sprint race of the weekend, as the countdown is at 3 minutes right now for these drivers as the team's making ready. The temperature just passing 90 degrees by my unofficial reckoning. So it is a hot one for sure. And these drivers definitely earn their money if driving a contemporary downforce race car at speed is a eye-opening experience. It's not like your tour down the driveway. These cars generate some significant G-forces, and drivers have to work pretty hard. So you'll see these drivers pretty well exhausted even after a short 30-minute exhibition race here. As while we're waiting on the last minute here before we send the cars out, let's do a quick thank you to the sponsors that help make this racing possible and this stream possible.
SpeedTour returns to Road America June 28th through the 30th, featuring the Trans Am Series presented by Pirelli, the Cube 3 Architecture TA2 Series, International GT, PSSA, FRP, and Optima Search for the Ultimate Street Car. Saturday, you can take part in the Haggerty Cars and Caffeine Car Show with Parade Lab. You do not want to miss the Road America SpeedTour. For tickets, simply go to speedtour.net.
Of course, SpeedTour next will stop at my home track, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, next weekend, actually. The Road America event is certainly a big one, but we've got the full slate of of fun at Mid-Ohio coming up next weekend. So if you're from the Indianapolis area, if you've never been to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, come on over. I think you'll have fun. It's a good time. Let's introduce these drivers to you. Starting alone in row 15 is the number 11 of Thomas Melendrez. He's in one of two Panos DP01 Champ cars. In row 14, the 07 of Craig Campbell in a 1994 Van Diemen RF94. Christian Schneider next to him in the number 51, which is a March 73A Formula 5000 car. In row 13, another Formula 5000, the 15A of George Fry. That's a McLaren M10. Then we got Marc Giroux in the number 30A, Lola T9720. That is a Indy Lights car from 1997. Patrick Ubelor is outside of row 12 in the 93 Star Mazda. Next to him, the 266 of Dane McMahon in a Van Diemen Elan 2014 vintage. Row 11, the 07A of Brandon Reed in a Pro Formula Mazda. And the 13 of Phil Gumpert in a Ralt RT5. Row 10 has the 77 of Thomas Simpson in a McKee Mark 18. That's a Formula 5000. And another one next to him is David Zavitsky in the 7B. That's a Legrand Mark 7A. In row 9, car 12 is Sebastian Coppola. He's in a Lola T192. And Michael Cross in the number 29, a Van Diemen Formula 2000. Another Formula 5000 car is outside of row 8. That's the 66 of David Albin in a Lola T332. Next to him, astronaut Drew Fustel in car number 24. His is a Swift 016 Formula Atlantic car. In row 7, car 30 is Jim Wright in a Swift DB4. And the 07B of Austin Holtgrew in a JDR Formula 1000. Lots of those in the field. Row 6 has the 34 of John Wilhelmy in a Swift 014. That's another Atlantic car. And Pierce Crone in car number 95 in an Elan DP08. Row 5 has the 7 of John DiGiovanni in a Mazda Elan Pro Formula. And the 15 of Justin Widoff in an SCCA Formula Enterprises 2. Row 4, the 93A of Steve Hamilton in a JDR 012. And the 81 of Timothy Pierce in another JDR F1000. Row 3, the 33 of Charles Livingston in yet another JDR. And then the 21 of Travis Engen in his Lola T9720. Again, that's an Indy Lights car. In the front two rows, the 12A of Riley Harris in a Van Diemen Formula 1000. And Nathan Bird in the 39 in a JDR Formula 1000. On the front row, the 06 of Bruce Hamilton. That's a Swift 014 with the Mazda power plant, a Formula Atlantic car. And Lewis Cooper Jr., who won yesterday in the number 70. That's another of the Panos DP01 Champ cars. Lewis Cooper and Bruce Hamilton bringing the field around for the start of this 22-minute or 14-lap race, whichever occurs first. And the green flag flies, and somebody jumping out of the line in a hurry. Lewis Cooper disappears into the sunset as the rest of the field tries to sort themselves out. Coming down into turn number 1. I believe that's Nathan Bird in the red, white, and black, number 39. Tiptoeing his way through the traffic there at turn number 1. But Lewis Cooper Jr. gets out in front in that Panos. Lots of traffic as the cars trying to sort themselves out. Work their way into single file by the time they get into the Holman Straight, but still some passing going on as the cars fan out 3 and 4 wide, a little deeper in the pack. As Lewis Cooper has it done, and I think that's Nathan Bird going side by side with Riley Harris in the 12A. Those are a pair of Formula 1000s. Harris in the taller of the two. That is the Van Diemen. And then the JDR, the more low-slung red and white car of Nathan Bird. Same power plant, but different chassis from different manufacturers. The black number 33 of Charles Livingston. That's another JDR tucking in behind them. But Nathan Bird and Riley Harris having a nice little battle. Looks like Nathan Bird getting it done as he moves up into second spot. As they work their way across the line for the first time, Lewis Cooper hustling that car. Nathan Bird, Riley Harris, then Timothy Pierce in the number 81 black JDR. Bruce Hamilton shuffled back to 5th in that red Swift Formula Atlantic. There he is right behind Timothy Pierce as they make it through turn 1. Austin Holtgrew just behind them. Travis Engen just behind him. There's Holtgrew in the black and green JDR. Bruce Hamilton right at the tail end, and he's going to try to make a move on Timothy Pierce in the 81 JDR. So we've got a slow-moving car down the front straightaway here. As one doesn't sound like it's firing on all cylinders. Meanwhile, Lewis Cooper Jr. in this Panos Champ car. This was right about the time of the split, or the healing of the split between Champ car and Indy car, which eventually came together. That was a period when the two championships ran simultaneously until they eventually, Champ car eventually folded and got absorbed by what was the Indy Racing League back in the day. The Panos DP01 was the chassis Don Panos commissioned to compete in the Champ Car Series. These Formula 1000s all with that really high-pitched exhaust note. That's a 1,000cc Suzuki motorcycle engine, basically, in these cars, revving to 10,000 plus RPM, hence that really high-pitched exhaust note. Hamilton's car, on the other hand, the 06, with a Mazda 4-liter motor, not quite as high revving for sure, with a little different exhaust note. The car originally, the Swift 014, originally came with the Toyota power plant for the Toyota Atlantic Series. But as we heard Bruce Hamilton saying on the podium yesterday, those engines are almost impossible to find and to find parts for. And look at this, Lewis Cooper being reeled in by Riley Harris. This doesn't look like Lewis Cooper was going to disappear into the sunset. Riley Harris and Nathan Bird are keeping him honest in those two Formula 1000 cars. Riley in the Van Diemen. If Lewis is having an issue, as normally he would be out in front. Perhaps he's just keeping it as cool as possible. Here we go. We got a three-way battle for the lead here. Lewis will have the straight line advantage, of course. That Champ car's got a whole lot more power plant than the two JDRs, but they are very nimble. Bruce Hamilton in that Atlantic Swift, not that far back. Timothy Pierce a little further back. Austin Holtgrew in the 07B JDR. Then Steve Hamilton in the 93A JDR. Travis Engen in the 21 next up, as we've got a car rolling down the pit lane. Doesn't have a number on it, so I can't help you with that. Travis Engen in the number 21 Indy Lights car. That was back in the era, the 1997 Indy Lights, when they were powered by a Buick 4.2-liter V6, making about 425 horsepower, thereabouts. And then the Formula 5000s thundering by. David Albin in one of those, the 66 red Lola. David Zavetsky has the white and blue Legrand. Sebastian Coppola in the red, white, and blue Lola. Formula 5000 was a very popular racing series in that era. Single-seater with a big 5-liter V8. Usually had really tall induction stacks. The original ones did not have wings, but the later generations had high wings on those cars. They were always entertaining to watch. Lewis Cooper has pulled into the pits, so that car was not working the way he needed it to. Probably overheating, that's just a guess, on this hot day. So Nathan Bird and Riley Harris now at the point, with Bruce Hamilton just behind them and a little deeper in the pack. There's one of those Formula 5000 cars with the high airbox. That's Marc Giroux in that number 30 Lola T9720. David Albin in that number 66 Lola T332 with the high air box, the Formula 5000 car. Thomas Melendrez in another of the Panos, the DP01s, started at the back of the pack, and he's already worked his way into the top 10. He's currently 9th. We'll get a good look at that Lola Formula 5000. And that's Lewis Cooper going slowly as he pulls into the cutout, what we call the motorcycle cutout, there at the exit of turn 12. And I think he's just looking for a break in the action to get back into the running. I thought he had come into the pits because he was no longer in the lead. Apparently that car is slowing down a bit. Justin Widoff aboard the number 15. It's the SCCA Formula Enterprises 2. As that big Lola Formula 5000 car continues to work his way past some traffic. Meanwhile, at the front, Nathan Bird, your leader, with Riley Harris giving chase as Nathan has taken over the point of these two Formula 5000s. Bruce Hamilton in the Formula Atlantic 06 just behind in third spot. About 13 minutes or 9 laps left to go. I understand the 95 of Pierce Crone in his Formula 2000 Iran had a loop at turn 1, but has continued. Meanwhile, the two leaders hugging the inside wall there. Nathan Bird then steps out to the regular racing line going into turn number 1 with Riley Harris in the white 12A just behind, and Bruce Hamilton in the red number 06, not that far behind him. The JDRs built and engineered by Jerry Hodges. And very popular in what was once called Formula B in SCCA parlance with the 1000cc motors. Working their way through traffic. It's one of the wingless Formula 5000 cars that they're working their way around. That's the 7 car of John DiGiovanni. Sorry, the 7A. No, try 7B. That's the one of David Zawitsky in his Legrand Mark 7A. Good battle here with the 11 of Melendrez working his way around David Albin in that number 66 Lola. Melendrez has moved up into 7th spot now in that Panos. Nathan Bird beginning to stretch it out just a little bit. They've been dealing with some traffic, but he's got some clear track ahead of him. You can see him drifting that car through turn number 9 and into 10 as he climbs the hill. Justin Widoff in the Formula Enterprises 2. That's the red and blue car that we saw just a shot ago. Looks like Bruce Hamilton's gaining on Riley Harris. As we look at the lap times, Harris's last lap was a 26.7. Bruce Hamilton a 26.9, so he made a liar out of me. Oh, we got a spinner. Looks like the 29 has looped it. Michael Cross in his Van Diemen Formula 2000. It was a USF 2000 car prior to the current generation of cars, a 1999 vintage. Van Diemen, of course, the company founded by Ralph Furman. As we're going to have to go to a full course yellow here to recover that car, as apparently it is stalled and not in a place of safety. But as I say, the Van Diemen was a British car company originally founded by Ralph Furman and eventually purchased by Don Panos, and they rebadged the Van Diemens as Elans at some point. Mark Giroux in the Lola Indy Lights car. We've got about 9 minutes to go and 6 laps. But we're going to slow them down behind the safety car, so we'll probably run out of time before we run out of laps. As Nathan Bird and Riley Harris slowing it down here on the front straightaway so the safety car can pick them up. Couple cars there at the tail end of the lead lap, just in front of the safety car. Safety crew on the scene of the spin of Michael Cross. Apparently they're just not able to get the car refired, so they'll help him get out of harm's way. Let's do a quick class rundown. Multiple classes, of course, represented here amongst all of the cars. At the front are the 9 F3 category cars. Nathan Bird is the leader in the 39 JDR. Riley Harris in the 12A Van Diemen is second. Bruce Hamilton in the 06 Swift is third. In the 9 F1 category, that's with the 2 Indy Lights cars, Travis Engen leading in the 21 over Mark Giroux in the 30A. In the 9 F2 category, we've got the Formula Enterprises 2 car of Justin Woodhoff, number 15, and the 13 Ralt RT5 of Phil Gumford. That Ralt was a Super V designed by Ron Tournette. In the 9 F4 category, Pierce Kroon leading in the 95 Elan DP08. DJ Galifa in the 12B Van Diemen RF01, and Michael Cross in the 29 Van Diemen. All USF 2000 chassis from back in the day. In the 9 FA5 category for the Formula 5000 cars, David Albin, the leader, in the number 66 Lola T332, and the 7B of David Zavetsky in the Legrand Mark 7, with Thomas Simpson in the number 77 McKee Mark 18, running in third. Finally, the 9 Boss category, Boss standing for Big Open Single Seater. It was Lewis Cooper originally in the lead of that, but he retired after 4 laps. Thomas Melendrez leading that in the number 11. Both of them are Panos DB01s. There's only one 9 F5 car in the field, and that is Sebastian Coppola in the number 12 Lola T192. We've been following that around occasionally. We understand the track is clear, so we should be able to go back to green here. There'll be about to have about 5 minutes or a little less remaining. Starter has the green flag at the ready, just waiting for the field to make its way around. Safety car will peel off into the pit lane. And Nathan Bird and Riley Harris will resume their battle. We've got, of the top 5, 4 of them are the JDR Formula 1000 cars. Bruce Hamilton, the only outlier in that Swift Formula Atlantic, the red 06. It's going to be closer to 4 minutes before they get the green, so probably about 2 laps. Maybe it's about all we'll see. There we go. They're beginning to pick up the pace as they come onto the front straightaway. There's Bird, Harris, and Hamilton in that order. Steve Hamilton and Timothy Pierce right behind him in the black JDR 1000. Look at this. They're all 4 wide. Coming to the line, and we've had somebody into the wall. Number 66, Lola of David Albin, slowly down the front straightaway. He may have been involved in that incident with another car. Car 7, we're understanding, is the car into the wall. It might be the Legrand. I'm not sure. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different car 7s in the field. Race Control is going to checker this one because we need to get these cars cleared off. As we've got some debris up along the pit wall on the front straightaway, just coming off of the final turn. So it looks like Riley Harris is going to have the lead here, coming to what will be the checkered flag. Checkered flag's in the air, already waving to a couple of the lapped cars. Thomas Simpson and that McKee Formula 5000. At the tail end of the lead lap, comes across. Here comes Nathan Bird and Riley Harris in front. You can see the car up against the wall, and looks like a wing lying in the racetrack a little further upstream. Michael Cross and that Van Diemen, who got bump started after being recovered there at turn 1, had further problems, and the car rolled to a stop at turn 11. So we have a couple cars here on the front straightaway and the car back at turn 11 as the safety crew once again already on the scene. So we're going to have a little bit of time here for cleanup before we can fire off our last sprint race of the day for groups 5, 7, and 11, the prototype cars. Riley Harris, your winner. Nathan Bird in second. Timothy Pierce third. Steve Hamilton in fourth. Bruce Hamilton finishing fifth. Travis Engen came home in sixth. Mark Giroux in the seventh place. Thomas Melendrez eighth. Justin Widoff ninth, with John Wilhelmy taking the final spot in the top 10. Meanwhile, the field making its way around to come into the pit lane. The winners will head into the victory circle area for Eric Whitnable to acknowledge the winners at our podium ceremonies. Happy to say the driver in the car that made contact with the pit wall here, just upstream of the yard of bricks, climbing out under his own power, so that's a good sign. Well, we've got a little extra time. We had a chance to pre-record a couple of interviews, one with Nicola Verda, who was the winner of the Omologato Perfectly Timed Move of the Race Award this weekend.
Being the only female in the field, I don't really notice any difference, honestly. Like, when you put your helmet on, you're kind of just like everybody else, so who cares at the end of the day? You're just battling out there for, time and all that. Like, of course, like in different sports, like swimming or something, you're going to see the differences, but racing is car, right? So it's not any difference if you're a woman or a male. I try not to make friends. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, of course, like, and I know a lot of these guys will say, like, oh, hey, like, I'm friends with this guy, but at the end of the day, when you're on track, you're not friends. And if you do kind of make, like, a relationship, you kind of treat them different on track. I gotta say, like, you won't make a dirty pass on them. You'll try to make it, like, clean, or just, you'll kind of, I don't know, it's a different feeling when you are friends with someone and you're racing against them. So I was recently in a documentary that just came out, and I think it was a week ago or something, but it's only on TSN. So it will soon be on, like, Amazon Prime and Netflix and stuff, hopefully soon. But yeah, we were working on it, like, a while back. So it was really random. I was go-karting back then, so it was kind of like, I didn't really think much of myself. And then Mercedes-Benz Canada actually called, they went through the whole thing. And it was pretty cool to see, like, in the documentary how it's, like, my progression in racing, and, like, also brought in an interview with, like, Lewis Hamilton, which was a really cool interview as well. So it brought, like, a lot more things and just showed the progression in racing as well as my kind of personal life as well. I was driving the F4 car, which they use in the F1 Academy, just to see, just to do a test kind of for what might happen next year, because I know this won't be, like, the final step in my career, so, there's more to come, and, the marketing in F1 Academy is amazing, so just to go towards that, as well as the racing in FR is really good, so just want to, use that for this year and then keep moving up. I remember when I was little, I had, like, a list of things, like, where I have to be at a certain age. Right now I'm supposed to be in Formula 3, and then FIA F3 would be the next step, of course, but we'll see where it brings me. Of course, like, there's IndyCar as well, IMSA, all these kind of things, so we'll see.
Once again, great to hear from Nicola Verda, as she is the only female driver in our Formula Regional Americas Championship. But great to hear her talk about her career and the role that women in motorsports, the increasing role that women in motorsports have. Of course, we had Lynn St. James as our Grand Marshal here this weekend, and we had a chance to chat with Lynn during the fan walk prior to our first race of the weekend yesterday. And she, of course, co-founding Women in Motorsports North America, known as WIMNA, with Beth Peretta. And our Director of Marketing, Kim McCullough, is one of the board members on that effort. And, the timing is right for females to get into racing. There was a time not too many years ago that it was tough for women to break into racing, and there wasn't a whole lot of interest, I think, in that. And that has changed dramatically. As if you go to a go-kart race these days or a junior formula race, you'll find a number of women making their inroads into racing. all forms of racing, drag racing, stock car racing, off-road, motorcycles, just about everything. So it's great to see, and we'd love to have a more diverse following among our drivers, and as well as the technical, the behind-the-scenes folks. Women are studying engineering and becoming mechanics and becoming designers and aerodynamicists, so it's all great to see. And on this Father's Day, we should acknowledge all of our fathers and their daughters, 4 sons, as the cleanup work continues here on the front straightaway, as we've got a little fluid down, so we've got to get some kitty litter down, get the sweeper to pick it up. So once again, that's going to delay the start of our next race by just a few minutes while that cleanup continues.
I'm going to just put the mic right here. Hello. Sorry. There were some really good racing kind of stories going on right there. Sorry.
That's the voice of Eric Whitnable,
had
our
to get
Podium
this underway.
host.
Let's talk about this
listen
group.
in on the Podium for this last race for
kind of a mixed group here of 9 and 9 boss, but we missed somewhere the Thomas Melendez, the 11. Did Thomas make it down here at all? But so if not, he was the overall for 9 boss. And but then we have our friends here, the 81. Where's Timothy Pierce? Timothy. All right, a lot of activity there on that last lap, but there was a couple other laps in between there. How was the rest of your race?
Well, there was lots of full course yellow, as has been the case all weekend, unfortunately. But I was able to dice it out with Steve in the 93, and I was managing temperature in the engine. It was 228 degrees, and so I had to breathe it a little bit. We got into traffic, and I got into some unfortunate traffic in unfortunate turns, and he was able to pass me, and then we were full course yellow after that, and on the restart I was able to get him going into turn 1, and then we got 4 turns, and then there's another full course yellow, and then a checker, so it wasn't a very long race.
Yeah. Long, but not a lot of green flag racing. Okay, we'll put you up P3 in this group in what we call the 9 others. That's Timothy Pierce, Nathan Baird. Where's Nathan? There he is. Well, let's let the celebrations happen for everybody. Nathan, good weekend for you. Tell us a little bit about your weekend and then the race.
Yeah, so basically just showed up yesterday for the first time, a little under the weather, as you can tell by my voice, and showed up Saturday quali, broke the track record, which nobody will have a chance to beat that until next year, which is nice. And then race got, this time it was better lucky than good. When Riley had a mistake in the turn 1, that gave me the win. And then this race was really, really fun. I'm going to upload all the footage on my YouTube channel. It was insane side-by-side action with Riley on the first lap. And it was really fun. And just the straight line speed of Riley's car, he's got that thing dialed in. And just the yellow came out at a missed opportune time. And that's all we can do.
Yep, that's what sometimes it always happens. We'll put you up P2 right there. Nathan Bird. Riley, let's get up here and hear it from your side of things. You got a good dicing out there?
Oh, yeah, it was a great race. Good job to Nathan. We had some good close wheel-to-wheel action that entire race. Got a little lucky with catching some traffic as the one Judd was backing out of it, caught him in a bad time, so that got Nathan in front of us, and then just trying to keep up with him, and just it was so much fun. It's been a great weekend.
Folks you'd like to thank here for your race weekend?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my crew and family. They've been here the whole time, keeping the car put together, making us have a great race car.
Now there's some little folks back here. Are they part of? I see they have some medals on them. Are they part of your crew or anybody else's crew here?
They're not.
I wonder who they are. Who are you guys part of? We like to put kids on the podium, but if you're not associated with anything, we can't do that. So, all right. Do you want to come up here anyway? Come on up. Let's go. It's just it's going to be a racer, and get up here. We'll put you on the top with everybody else. Riley, you ready? It's okay. I won't talk too loud. You can go up there. Can you climb up there? Let's go together. All right. Can you do that? Can you get up on there with Riley and smile really pretty for our camera? There you go. I like doing those kind of things. That's fun. That's right. All right. Thanks so much for being here this weekend. That's our Group 9 for the weekend. Be safe. Travel safe. Nathan, I hope you feel better.
Thanks to Eric Whitnable for hosting our podium celebrations for all of our SVRA crews, as we're under 3 minutes for the start of our final sprint race of the day and our final race on the stream, as that is coming up here in less than 3 minutes as these drivers will make their way out. This is for groups 5, 7, and 11. These are basically prototypes, the vast majority, the more contemporary prototypes from group 11. And we also have one group 7 car and one group 5 car in the field as well, as the majority of the group 5 field took part in the Sports 2000 race earlier today, just prior to the lunch break. So they have already packed up and are probably headed back to their home base. So just waiting for these cars to be released from the pit lane, and then we'll run the 11 car starting grid for you for our final sprint race of the day. While we have a quiet moment, just one more thank you to the fine folks at Live Race Media for stepping in at the last minute to put this streaming package together. We certainly appreciate all the great work that these guys have done, and guys and gals, and the wonderful images that we've had to make available to those of you watching on the stream. Thank you for joining us on the stream. We're glad that we were able to provide this for you, and Live Race Media was a big part of making that happen on very short notice, I might add. So keep an eye on youtube.com/SpeedTour TV throughout the season, as we'll have our regular streaming package back with us for the next round of racing next weekend at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, as well as at Road America a little later in the month of June. As the countdown continues on the grid, and the cars are being released onto the pit lane. Here they come. The vast majority of these, like we say, are prototypes, so they are Group 11 prototypes, which are the most contemporary, some of them as new as 2019. So here's the starting field for you. Alone in row 6 is the number 20B of Dave DeBolt. And that is a 1985 Spec Racer Ford 3. Spec Racer Ford is a spec class, just as it sounds, from the Sports Car Club of America. And it has gone through 3 generations. Apologies for the little interruption in the video, but we got everything rebooted and we're back underway. As it is the number 8 of James Hagan, I believe, at the point, with the Praga of Aaron Weiss right behind him as they're working their way through turn 11 into turn 12. Hagan getting the jump at the start from the second row to take over the point. And coming onto the front straightaway to complete race lap number 1. Side-by-side racing action for second. Aaron Weiss in that Praga, and then David Albin in the Radical SR10. Thomas Melendrez in his Ligier LMP3 car. Paul Reed in the Revolution. Anthony Lisa in the Norma. Mark Hannafin in that yellow Nuart Can-Am car. Andrew Myers in the Carber, and Dave DeBolt just now coming by in the Spec Racer Ford 3. It's a good battle for second place. As we mentioned, Aaron Weiss and David Albin battling it out as James Hagan pulling out a little bit of a lead here in the early stages. There's the Praga, really modern-looking race car. Sort of a Batmobile kind of look to it, for sure. It would be right at home on any racetrack, for sure. David Albin right behind him in that Radical SR10. Radicals really have a life of their own. They have their own racing series for Radical owners. They're an affordable, relatively affordable way to go racing with a very contemporary race car, and the Radicals really popular as a track day car. Right behind him, the 22 of Melendrez in that Ligier P315. That's the predecessor of the current version of it, the Ligier P320. So this was the LMP3 car of that era, and he's going to try to make a move on David Albin in the Radical. Down to the inside, and they go side by side. The Radical pops away to retake that third spot. So Thomas Melendrez, who just jumped out of one race car into another, doing back-to-back duty here in these closing sprint races for the weekend. James Hagan in that 08 is an Orica 03, an LMP2 car. One step under the LMP1s that have raced this weekend over at the Circuit de la Sarre at Le Mans. I won't give you any spoilers as to who won Le Mans because I haven't watched yet. That's why we have DVRs to watch that racing when I'm not at the racetrack. Good battle here for third between Albin and Melendrez. Albin in the Radical, Melendrez in the Ligier. Very different line. Albin goes right out to the wall. The Ligier taking a little tidier line. And you would think the Ligier might have the legs here on the front straightaway, and it looks like he's going to try to make a pass on the outside. The Radical's really good on the brakes though, but Melendrez able to make the pass stick. So he's moved up into third position. Ligier, of course, the builder of our Formula Regional Americas chassis that we raced here this weekend. These prototype Ligiers, certainly the cars that the company is best known for. They're single-seaters for the most part. Contemporary single-seaters limited to the F4 and the F3 chassis used in the Formula Regional. There's that Nuart Can-Am. Looks very much like the old school Can-Am cars that raced back in the 60s. It was a class that was sort of a run-what-you-brung kind of race car. They had very open rules. You could make just about anything you wanted with four wheels and big engine in the back, and of course Porsche eventually they say, killed the series with that Porsche 917 K30 with the 12-cylinder turbocharged 1,300 horsepower behemoth that was fielded by Roger Penske, by the driver Mark Donohue. Porsche taking advantage of the liberal rule set to build the ultimate race car, and some say that was it. I can show my own age by saying that I was old enough to see that car race in anger at my home track, Mid-Ohio, back in the day. And the new art's going to make a call to the pits. Mark Hannafin apparently with a problem that he doesn't want to have to deal with out on track, so he's retiring the car from 8th position. Meanwhile, the radical of David Albon continues to circulate. There's the Praga of Aaron Weiss. And then the leader just in front of him, James Hagan, in the white number 8. That Praga is a beautiful race car. I had never heard of Praga until I had a chance to call a race down in Florida, and Aaron Weiss was there at one of the FARA race meetings. And so I looked up the Praga, and it's a long-standing Czechoslovakian automotive company. They manufacture, street cars and trucks and buses and whatever. They've been very prominent and still going strong, but now developing this sporting arm that builds these prototypes predominantly for track day use. And they are beautiful to look at and very sophisticated and very fast. So Aaron Weiss putting it to good use. Thomas Melendrez has set the fastest lap in the Ligier in 3rd spot. He's about a second and a half behind Aaron Weiss in the Praga. You can see them just now coming through turns 8 and 9. James Hagan continues to lead in that number 8. Orica. This was in the era, this LMP2 car was in the era when they were open cockpit as opposed to the more contemporary closed one. Whoa, and he's a little late on the brakes, locking him up is Hagan. But this one not all that old. It's a 2008, so it certainly counts as a relatively contemporary car. We understand the 22 car has had a spin. That's Thomas Melendrez in that Ligier. There he is, recovering after a bit of a spin at turn 1, so he's lost some ground to Aaron Weiss in front of him. I don't know if David Albon was able to get by him in the 349 Radical. We'll see as they come back by. But Melendrez had a spin at turn 1, we're told. That's Andrew Myers, I believe, in the blue number 51A. That's a Carber CS2, a Formula 5000, or Formula 5000, S2000 car. We saw a whole field of these race earlier today, as normally they would run with this race group, but they had a race of their own. Andrew Myers was part of that race as well, but elected to get a little extra track time here. As we see the Radical move up into that 3rd spot. There's the Ligier of Melendrez in the background, so David Albon takes over 3rd spot. We've got about 9 minutes or 5 laps, whichever occurs first. And There's the 20 of Dave DeBolt in the Spec Racer Ford 3. The fourth generation of that car, basically. The basic shape was the original Spec Racer. It was known as an SR back in the day with the Renault power plant. And, it's just been upgraded suspension. Oh, and there's a spin on the Revolution. Has done a Revolution. It's the 54 of Paul Reed. Turn 1's been a trouble spot for some of these competitors, especially as the day gets hot. The tires get a little greasy, and it's easy to lock them up, and it will swap ends on you if you're not careful. And that happened earlier to Melendrez, and now it has happened to Paul Reed. But we understand he's gotten it refired and is back underway. There's Andrew Myers again in the Sports 2000. The white, orange, and gray Norma of Anthony Lisa, the 21A. I don't think we've talked much about that. That's a prototype 1 car racing in SCCA competition for the most part. Beautiful paint job on that car. And one more look at the blue Carver of Andrew Myers, and he's being reeled in by the Radical of David Albin, I believe. Actually, no, that's the Revolution. Sorry, that's the one that spun there at turn number 1. The 54 of Paul Reed. The Revolution and the Radical similar. The Revolutions have the quote, the double halo. It's got a 4-poster halo as opposed to the single post in front of the driver. Meanwhile, James Hagan out in front has stretched out a pretty comfortable lead. Oh, the Praga is going slow here on the front straightaway. Aaron Weiss just now comes by, but up against the pit wall and not at speed. David Albin in the Radical will take over the top spot as the Praga of Weiss slowing here on the front straightaway. There's Anthony Lisa in the Norma once again. There's the Praga pulling off at the pit exit. He's going to try to get to a place of safety there so that this session can continue, as we're 3 laps away from the checkers, or 6 minutes, whichever occurs first. James Hagan has had an uneventful run in the Oreca up at the front, opening up an 8-second lead over the Praga prior to its demise. So now he'll have an even bigger lead over David Albin in the Radical, the 349. White flag is in the air for James Hagan, so 1 more lap to go. As we follow the leader around through turn number 2 and 3 for the final time at speed. David Albin into second spot in the Radical. Oh, about 17 seconds adrift of this car. Hagan's best lap a 27.2, Albin's best lap a 28.9, so about a 1.5 second difference between them. Thomas Melendrez should inherit 3rd place with the problems for the Praga, as the Revolution about to go a lap down to the leader. It's Paul Reed in the 54. Oh, James Hagan getting a little tail happy as he got a little too much power a little too soon. But he'll gather it up, make his way around to the checkered flag. Onto the front straightaway comes the number 8, and he'll be the first to see the checkers for the last of the races that we're going to be covering here on the stream from SpeedTour TV. The lapped car of Paul Reed across the line, as is the 51 Carber Sports 2000 of Andrew Myers. There's Dave DeBolt in the Spec Racer Ford 3. Here comes the 21 of Anthony Lisa, as he will come up on the banking to take the checkered flag for 4th place. Thomas Melendrez already by. Actually, no, he will take 3rd place, as Thomas Melendrez has not come by. He may have ducked into the pits in the number 22 Ligier. So Anthony Lisa will be the last car on the lead lap. As our winner, James Hagan, makes his way around on the cool-down lap and into the pit lane. So with that, it's time to say goodbye to our friends at youtube.com/SpeedTourTV. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Indy Speed Tour. It's been fun to bring the racing to you, and we're going to crank it up and do it all over again coming up next weekend at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course with the full slate of Trans Am, Trans Am 2. We'll have all 3 of our classes, Formula Regional Americas, as well as the F4 US Championship, the Ligier JSF4 Championship. We'll have an ARCA race on Friday. The ARCA drivers will come in for a one-day affair. They arrive, practice, qualify, and race all on the same day. So that's part of the fun of the jam-packed weekend next weekend. Of course, the full slate of vintage competitors there as well under the SVRA aegis. So we invite you to come join us at Mid-Ohio if you're able to do so. Failing that, tune in to SpeedTour TV, youtube.com/SpeedTour TV, and you'll find the coverage of that event as well. On behalf of our entire family here at PMH Holdings, thank you so much for being with us for this Father's Day at the Indy Speed Tour. And hopefully we'll see you somewhere down the road. Have a good evening. Happy Father's Day, everyone.